Hey everyone, so we're going live at 10, just like we do every Wednesday, just as usual. That's how we normally do it. Welcome back to the Dynasty Grind. Let's talk about fantasy football, I guess. That's all I got. Happy Tuesday, guys. How are you doing at this very normal and expected time to be live stream?
I am feeling exactly like I should be at this exact time, like I do every week.
Every week for I don't even know how long, years probably.
Well, to be fair, the answer to that is tired, and that's right for me. So that fits.
Hey, look over there. Oh no, wait. Sorry, that was early.
I did just watch 1984. This is giving me flashbacks. Yeah. So I forgot it was Wednesday, to be perfectly honest with you. But we managed to get in at our usual starting time. Genji, actually, it just reminded me that college season is probably over. I hadn't even thought about it. I've been playing with my awkward pause NFL database, so I hadn't even thought about college. But the college season is probably over now, right, guys?
It is.
All right, so I go get those stats. I still have no idea, Genji. I didn't even go grab those stats yet. I will message my guy. That's the best I can do for you. Zach, you were just talking about it, though. You're a little further into the class. You're a little disappointed with wide receivers, right?
That's right. No, I'm 12 wide receivers in. So far, 10 of the 12 that I've watched, I am interested in drafting. So this is this looks like a nice class. Like there's a pretty clear. I mean, obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. at the top, Malik Neighbors, and then there's a nice set of 4 guys to me, and then there's another set of 4 guys. This is a fun class.
So I need to find out who this guy is going to be. Because what I'm hearing is we're going to get really good wide receivers around the 201, and which means I'm going to have my Michael Pittman, T. Higgins dilemma again at 201, 202, which means I will do what I did in 2020 and just trade for a crap ton of 201 and 202.
Yeah, but I don't want you to get stuck with Keon Coleman. I'd feel bad about that.
Well, you'll tell me if he's bad, and then I won't take him.
Okay. I'll deal.
Though legitimately, I don't remember T. Higgins was my own. I don't remember what you even said about Higgins.
So I had T. Higgins and Pittman in the same group, but they were down a little bit because those are not typically the types of receivers that I gravitate toward.
Yeah.
The kind of the bigger body post up guys that don't necessarily drive 150 targets, but do get in the end zone more than and they've both been, I think, a little bit more than what I expected, but they were the back shoulder throw guys.
Yeah. And
that was the thing with T. Higgins. I'm look, if you're going to do one thing right as a big body receiver, a back shoulder throw, since that has kind of become the thing in the NFL, because you can set up a corner to be playing with leverage downfield and then throw that back shoulder, and now you've boxed out the corner and have the ability to make that catch. If you can do that in the NFL with T. Higgins' size, you're gonna have a role. And it just so happens his role ended up being bigger than even I thought it was going to be. So it wasn't a dislike for Higgins. I think I had him it was
I know
7 and 8 or 8 and 9. I was but yes, you were higher on Higgins. You were the team big Clemson wide receiver.
I'm just looking through this. I have a moment here. I don't normally talk about this. Well, we don't normally talk about this stuff, and it might be a weird question. It's like a pre-show question. I've been weirdly disconnected because of a new schedule change and stuff anyway, and the end of the season timing well with it. I'm working a new job and stuff. And so a lot of my content ends as I enter a new cycle. But I was just trying to look through Twitter to do some of the stuff I usually do. I realized I've got 10 notifications in the last 7 days, which is unusual for me. And unless it's a person I know adding me, they're just porn bot likes. And I've been feeling really disconnected, and I thought it was a schedule change, and me not making. I haven't recorded a podcast in 3 weeks, partly because of that and stuff like that. But I think I was primarily engaged with this community through Twitter, and my Twitter is basically dead now. Unless I at someone or they at me, I don't hear anything. Like I'm hearing stuff because Russ mentions he was talking to someone, or you mentioned. I feel so kind of. I floated off into some kind of nebulous void, not on Twitter, but in fantasy, because that's my, like, I don't talk to people. I don't have friends. I don't go on their podcast. No one asks. And, oh, well, they do, and I go, but you know what I mean? Outside of the self-deprecation thing, I feel really just like I've drifted away because my Twitter account is dead, basically.
It
is
certainly
that just me?
No,
I don't pay, and I know you guys don't pay, so you might have a similar.
It's a similar thing where like so I knew yesterday because yesterday was Tuesday, Peter. I knew yesterday that Russ was going to record a Trade Addicts, and I had to go search for Russ to see the tweet that he put out to ask the question, and I'm like, I want to see that on my like that should be on my For You timeline. Like I interact with Russ regularly, and it like. It's a weird, like that algorithm now is like the last 3 people you talk to, and that's it, and it's like it's weird.
Like the only actual relevant notification I've got in seriously like 10 days is one, someone said, "Hey, this guy is an idiot. Follow him, maybe if you want that," and 2, Ryan McDowell telling me I've forgotten to draft. So that was
I was in that tweet. Me too.
That's it. Yeah, those are the only notifications. And I know it's the off season just hit or stuff, but it feels like really unusual for me. And I'm like, that might be part of why I didn't know it was Wednesday. I don't know what's going on. I'm playing fantasy football by myself again, which is fine. I feel very relaxed in that situation. And my Discord keeps me engaged. So. Like I feel it, but it's really weird state I'm in right now. I don't know if I'm leaving or if I've left or if I've just floated off into some nebulous void, and I don't really know what to do about it. But it's weird. So I thought I'd ask, since you guys normally know the answers to things I'm wondering about. But back to it. And that and this live stream, that like this is my entire interaction with the community at this point. So like let's maybe do that. Gazette. 14 team, 1 QB, competing team with Bijan Swift, Najee, Gibson, Chase Brown. Would you sell Najee? And what would you need in return? I actually expect I'm higher on looking over DLF ranks that we just had to update and going over my own ranks. I'm not as high on Najee Harris as I was expecting to versus rankers or versus ADP, but that hasn't updated for the offseason yet. And I expect him to be more of a buy. Like he was on one of my competing teams and he was surprisingly usable, especially through the second half of the season. And I just think, especially because fancy hot Twitter has always loved to poop on Najee Harris. I don't think he's got any value. I don't think he's got any hype, but he's relatively young. He still accrues volume, and somehow he's still putting up over 20 points in more games than you would think this season with it. I think that's talent, but some people say, no, it's not talent. I just keep saying he's bad until it happens, I guess. But I'm more likely to target Najee Harris this offseason than sell him because I don't think you're going to get much for him. Like a first round pick is like, I would hope. No, I'd rather keep Najee if it's like.
You're not getting a first.
You're not getting a round pick for Najee. And that's like that's fine. And he was good. Like he was if you had him, he was a league winner. Like he was good the last couple of weeks, and you know
since Canada left, he was pretty good.
Yeah,
he was. I mean,
which is kind of ironic since the whole
which sucks, but
like the whole idea of Matt Canada's offense is like hand the ball off, but it was like, hey Najee, it's first down. We know there are 9 men up in the box, but we're still going to give it to you between the tackles. And then wait till third down, and then we're going to run off tackle with the other guy. And yeah.
But he was still pretty. I mean,
he was fine. Like let's not get carried away. Like it was.
I think it's hard to get carried away with a running back who's under 26, still accruing like significant volume in this market, like and worth less than a first. Like I think that's pretty good, you know. But that's all I'm saying. I would think, and Bijan Robinson, the rank's going to be there, but the value's not, because I was a little disappointed with this season. Swift, you might find
Arthur's
more
gone.
hype value on Swift, right?
Arthur Smith is gone. Falcons to the moon.
That's true. That's true. Okay, yeah. But it's all about the trade, to be honest with you, because like, I can't answer in a vacuum. It's all going to be what can you get for these guys. And right now, though, it's still running back season. You have some good running backs here, and I think the one that you're asking about, that's the obvious, I don't mind losing him. I would actually keep. So I don't expect to find a lot of great trades. Unless you're full building, and then I would sell Bijan Robinson. I'd be more tempted to start sending some offers out. But with these running backs, I assume your roster's pretty solid. And so I don't see any immediate moves I'd make. Are there any of these guys, like Russ, you said, but are you heavily interested in trading Bijan Robinson away based on what you're seeing in the market, as it were?
No. It's one of those things where it's more along the lines of, if you need to rebuild, if you need to pull back from that ultra competing, and you have someone who is still valuing Bijan as that RB1, which he pretty much is, then yeah, you can, if you can still get that bucket, take that bucket. But if you're getting like a first and a second, or mid and a late, then why? You might as well ride the hype of whatever happens in Atlanta, because it can't get worse than Arthur Smith and Desmond Ridder / Taylor Heineke. Like it can't. Like they could bring in Peter Howard and Jacoby Brissett, and it's still Jacoby would be the coach and Peter would be the quarterback, and it would still be an upgrade. Like honestly, it might be by Bijan season if people are still just like, nah, he's not gonna. He was bad, which he wasn't terrible. He just wasn't what we wanted him to be. But
it feels like another cautious buy running back off season cautiously. Like that's kind of where I was at last season.
Also, like I just said, don't sell him for a first and a second. But if you can buy him for a mid first and a second, then I would try it. It's worth what his ceiling can be, because he's still that good. So I think it's worth a shot to go buy him. But I'm not selling him unless I'm getting that same ransom I would have before the season. And you're probably not. And the rest of these guys, honestly, it's that wait until people start setting their lineups before you can get anything worthwhile. If you can get an early, I was joking about the 2-on-202s, getting the wide receivers that I love. If you can get that early of a second for Najee, I'd probably take it just for the heck of it, because it's exciting. Yeah. But I'm not in a rush to move him, because he's still going to get a large amount of carries on a team that likes to run the ball. Who their quarterback will be, no idea, but it doesn't matter. So, I'm not in a rush to move Najee. I know I just screamed yes, but it was really because he was a running back. You said any running back, I would have just said yes. So, yeah. So, again, like Peter always says, depends on the deal on the table. If it's a good deal, yeah, you take it. But if it's not, there's no reason to rush trading away running backs right now.
It does raise an interesting question, though, I think, which is, who in fantasy football right now do you have some players that you would be like, you're really interested in trading them away, not because they're bad and everyone else is stupid, but because they have value and they could well work out, but you think their value's way above where you would sell them. I was looking for an answer to this, and I just looked at DLF ranks versus ADP, and again, ADP is only updated for like December, so it's not quite the off season as far as DLF ADP goes, but like some interesting names jump up in Superflex, like Sam Howell, Justin Fields, Jordan Love. I kind of like those. Nico Collins jumped up at wide receiver. DLF ranks, apart from mine, Zach, don't get mad, a little low on Rashee Rice. He's ranked by ADP as wide receiver 27, and consensus he's 49 last time I looked. That's too low. That's kind of and Trey McBride turned up. And I love having Trey McBride, but defaulting to Zach's, if a tight end is worth a first outside of Sam Laporta and Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews, then you'd probably trade him for that first. He's maybe an interesting name.
I mean, but McBride was one of those guys that again, the way I play tight end, McBride was the guy that I'm rostering.
Yeah.
Because of exactly this. So now if McBride is a thing, I can play it.
Yeah, man. McBride is going to end up being like tight end 4 for a lot of people.
That's what I mean, though. The value is going to turn up, but you're going to just keep playing. Okay. It wasn't my list. Like I would expect. I'm happy to have Trey McBride right now, but it turned up in the DLF ADP versus ADP, and I was like, that's interesting. Like if a tight end suddenly becomes worth a mid first, always kind of interesting.
If Nico Collins didn't do what he did the past few games, he would be a fantastic buy. And honestly, I'm part of the reason, because I'm pushing them because they have a lot of cap space. So I'm like, go sign T Higgins, go sign T Higgins. But like Nico Collins he's good. And without he seems to do better when Tank Dell's not there, even though they don't play the same position. But
yeah,
but still,
I think I agree
that
with
he did that well in the end of the season, like it makes it feel less likely that they just go out and spend money to replace him. And they have the 27th pick, I believe, somewhere around there. Hold on, I have Tankathon like on my screen and I'm just not looking.
I'm always interested while you look in trading away a later breakout. So I'm probably on the outs with Nico again, like where he's valued. Like I'd rather take the value than Nico.
Like if you can get Nico for less than a first, I think it's worth a shot. It comes with a bit of risk.
Decent, not the 111, but a decent first. I'd trade him. Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course, you always want to, buy for less than you're willing to accept in a trade. But like that's what I'm saying. Like, to make you feel like you got a good deal on it, if you can get, send the 202, 203 for Nico Collins, there's just as much risk on any of the guys you're drafting at 202, than the fact that they might draft another wide receiver in Houston.
I'm just going to look at it again. That's the annoying thing and the interesting thing about value, right? Like he's valued in and around. If I can do it real quick, Tank Dell, frankly, or Saquon Barkley and Jackson Smith-Njigba and Deebo Samuel. And it's at that value, I'm like, yeah, I'd trade away Nico Collins for that this offseason pretty confidently, or I would be looking to do it. But none of those players go for 2 seconds. So the value might not be meeting the ADP, fair warning. But like if he's trading for more than that, I would be selling. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I've had a lot of those, like, who are your off-season buys and sells, and I haven't really had any good Sorry, there's, like, my kids don't weigh a lot, but they walk like they wear cement shoes, and I'm like, what time is it that they're stomping around like that? They should be in bed. What is going on? All right, sorry. Go ahead.
He also has the 104 and the 107, but don't expect to take a running back in those spots. Not this year, probably not. Maybe the 209, I would take a shot on one. So I guess another element to the question would be he's looking to buy running backs at the same time as trade Najee Harris away. I don't know.
You're thinking about positions when you really don't need to be thinking about positions is really what it comes down to.
Not in a rookie draft. Yeah, that's a good point.
No, like in anything. Like you are almost the furthest spot possible from having to set a lineup. All you got to worry about is the dynasty value on your team right now. And usually that doesn't come in the running back position, but still, you don't have to worry about positions whatsoever. Especially, we can say with almost certainty you're not taking a running back at 104 and 107, but we don't know what's going to happen, Right. So maybe there is, but still, it's like you don't need to think like that right now anyway. It's so far away.
And if you're looking for a running back, Najee Harris springs to mind off my list. And then you've got the default ranks answer, which is Christian McCaffrey's a year older. Maybe that team wants to sell that age. I would like that age if I'm interested in running backs. Kyron Williams is going to turn up on a value as most lists, but it really depends. I don't think the trades are going to flow. I think he's going to be top 12 by the time the offseason closes. Saquon Barkley. And then the answer we came up with last week, which was Roschon Johnson, Tank Bigsby, Zach Charbonnet, these disappointing first-year running backs. We're always interested to see if you can squeeze in still at that second round pick value into another trade. I think there's some pretty good go-to answers. But as far as the 104 and the 107 go, I think you're going to be trying to target, in a 1QB especially, those wide receivers. I get the sense that tight end one from this class might start to be a conversation at the 107. Is that going to be?
Probably higher than
so
that.
You might be looking. But yeah, don't think positions in a rookie draft.
2 wide receivers, Brock Bowers.
There you go.
Yeah.
Like that seems like what it is. Caleb, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors,
Bowers. Yeah, somewhere right around there.
And there was another
again too.
wide receiver that I think someone kept talking about, and I can't remember his name anymore. That like is up there with those guys. Not Egbuka anymore, but I think it was a name that started with a vowel. Like I'm just blanking.
I'll effort that. A name that started with a vowel, huh?
Maybe. It's a name that might start with a vowel.
It might.
Get on that.
Start with a consonant. You never know.
You're thinking Odunze.
Yep.
Yeah. His first name is Rome.
Is what?
Rome? Like
Rome
when in?
Odunze, yeah.
M-E or A-M?
R-O-M-E. When in?
Okay. When in Rome. Just checking. All right.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's interesting. Anyway, again, because try and give you a stronger answer here, I'd probably trade Najee Harris for a mid first in 25. Not that you can project mid into 25, but a 25 first on a team that's thinking more value. Yeah, sure. But as far as the seconds go, I'd probably just have Najee Harris.
Those trades aren't going to go away throughout the entire non-point scoring season. And like you're going to keep hearing how blah this running back class is. And that's going to make people want established running backs more. So seriously, there's zero reason to rush to make a move like this.
Yeah.
Pete, you putting some respect on? No, I'm not. No, I'm good. Wicks. I can't wait for him to Nico Collins me in 3 years. By the way, you got to take 2 down value years, and then you get the Nico Collins year, and then I say now I'll definitely trade him away too. That's the arc. 5th round alpha strikes again. Let's hope. We need some more lower drafted players hitting, as far as I'm concerned. 3 party hat guys from Toronto Dave this week. He is up in this game every week. Appreciate it. Zach, did you finish Ladd and Brian Thomas?
I have not finished Ladd McConkey yet, but I have finished Brian Thomas, and he will be higher than I think most of consensus for me.
I saw I saw a mock draft today from someone at Football Guys. The last name was Williams. I think his name started with a C. And he had Brian Thomas going 17th overall, somewhere around there.
Oh no, it'll be higher. What, like a mock draft, like NFL mock draft? Oh, so maybe he won't be higher for me because
and he also had the Patriots taking a tackle instead of a quarterback.
I've got him at 4 or 5 in this class for wide receivers.
Thomas,
yeah,
sounds right.
I think he's very talented. But no, I've only watched one game of Ladd McConkey, and it was a game that I was watching Tez Walker, but he happened to be playing Georgia, and so I watched Tez Walker, Ladd McConkey, and a game of Bowers. Yeah,
there you go. So, that's called multitasking, Zach.
But it was a pain. It was a full game, right? So I'm watching the full game, and I'm having to with Georgia run a play and watch McConkey, and then run it back and watch Bowers, and then but when I watch a play, I'm watching it 2 or 3 times. So I'm like, all of a sudden, this game that was a 2-hour game is like a 4. I'm like, man, this is ridiculous. At least I could skip halftime though.
I'm looking at
Brian Thomas is the other LSU guy,
LSU,
right?
Yep.
I love that LSU was running back central for so long, and then
but then Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry,
wide receivers,
Chase and Jefferson, and
Yeah, it's been downhill since then, really.
Booty. We won't talk about him.
Yeah, he's a little booty.
In Ohio lately, right?
Like, I mean, if you want, Genji, I can give you a little bit of Brian Thomas, but like to me, he's super sneaky with the ball. So like whenever he catches it, it's like 3 to 5 yards every single time. So you get this little bit of yak. When he gets a free release, he's deadly. He can get over the top. I wouldn't say he's fast, but he's real subtle in what he does and gets over the top, and he's got enough speed to win. He's got incredible sideline awareness and a real good feel for when he's on the boundaries, getting his feet down. Very good deep ball tracker, and does a good job adjusting and kind of stacking up a defender, getting his body between the ball and the defender. He does sometimes lose separation, like in between. So like he'll get initial separation, the corner will catch him, and then he'll re-separate at the end vertically. I don't love guys who vertically separate. Like that's something to me that is a little bit tricky when you get to the NFL because corners and safeties are quite a bit better and quite a bit more physical. But he does kind of a little bit of both. So that's a negative, but not like a killer. When he's pressed, he does struggle to create separation. So he doesn't always get a throw when he's pressed because he doesn't have separation to draw that throw. Where he does go through stretches against zones where he just kind of sits with a defender, which just drives me batty because that's literally the easy. Like
is it like a Baylor thing where it's funny? I forgot where we were talking about it, but like Baylor wide receivers, like if the play
Hatfield Reed,
if they weren't for them, they just don't try.
Yeah, no, this is different. This is in against zone defenses. He just kind of gets lazy and he'll drift to a defender, and then he'll just be like, close enough, like whatever. Where if you run a sharper route and get into the open section and then sit, you're just open. So it's just a matter of kind of not being quite where I want to see him. And he also will sometimes let the ball travel in on his body, especially when he's over the middle in the interior. So you end up with like drops and like balls batted down and that sort of thing. But like overall, I really like Brian Thomas.
Do you know who Jacob Cowing is? He's going to be like a 5-year player, I just found out. Jacob Cowing. Cowing?
Yeah. No idea. I played basketball in high school against a kid named that. Probably not the same guy, though. Yeah.
He's going to be a 5-year player from Arizona, so I don't know anyone's going to like him. Thanks for that, though, Zach. Scribbles bought low in London and Pittsfield. Pretty good about it.
You should.
Kind of into trade in London, especially if the Falcons stock is rising. Genji killing me softly, I believe. Jazz Fresh, Jordan Love, Genji and gang. It's not too late to sell. I agree. Because look, in a 1 QB, is it crazy to take Bowers at the 104?
In a 1 QB? No,
103.
I don't know yet. Doesn't sound too crazy. Okay.
And again, okay. I hate taking tight ends in the first round. I hate it. But Bowers is going to be another case like Kyle Pitts, where the consensus on Bowers is going to be so high that you just take him. Even if you don't want him, you take him because he's going to be worth more than that first as soon as you draft him.
And to dust off those takes, by the way, and what we said at the time was you draft the player, but you trade for the value because, again, you're mentioning Trey McBride and Mark Andrews. Like tight ends have that little bit of a lag, even if they have their great first year, which everyone thought was a justification for not trading him at that value. Then you get Kyle Pitts at year 2 and 3 so far. Like you value the player there, but try and get the value out of it. Tight ends are just a little weird. But yeah. There you go. The thing about the pick for a tight end, though, is not everyone's going to be thinking, well, I don't know yet. Not everyone's going to be thinking Bowers at the 104. So you could do it and trade it almost more easily than you could trade the pick for that value. Like Kyle Pitts was like, and at the time, it was like 3 first-round picks before he'd even been drafted, let alone played.
Peter, this is, it's going to be another Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. Very easily. John told me about it 2 years ago. So, and if John's in, then you know that value is Yep. He's normally pretty sharp on it. I'd still have the 107 to take a shot on another position. Yeah, but keep that 104. What was he saying?
He's saying take Bowers.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, don't plan your draft this far out, but it's okay to start thinking about it. And yeah, like we say, we think he's going to be in and around there probably. Not getting great offers just yet, but most are still kind of turned out and taking a breather. Yeah, there's that part of Dynasty as well. I tried like crazy to move up to the 102, but he just isn't budging at all.
Give it time.
If he's not budging now, it's going to get harder too, probably, especially the 102.
Yeah, but when people are going to start seeing the dollar signs in their eyes when we see when the draft happens and Caleb Williams does end up going 1 and Marvin Harrison.
I think about that in general, like there's an uptick when we start putting names on it, but also that I think outside the 104, the value kind of starts to thin as we start to think about taking, those later players. But especially in the top 4, top 5, I think the value does escalate, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and that elite to stud tier, the value just goes and goes and goes and goes. And then last year when you hit that Zay Flowers and Quentin Johnson, it's like like right after you went JSN and Addison, you're like and there's gonna be that too, which is probably right after Brock Bowers. But even if someone's like, nope, not selling, sooner or later they're gonna end up seeing other people on the internet trade that pick and what they'll get for it. And while chances are they're going to see some ridiculousness that no human being should actually do, it'll open their minds to the idea of trading it. So again, it's so early and there's so much time that don't get too overexcited and offer too much. And preaching patience is the worst advice from my mouth because I have none of it. But I do as I say, not as I do. Seriously, just try and slow your roll the best you can.
I would say, though, it's the right attitude. Again, because of the value arc we're talking, early as possible, try to trade up into the top tier before anyone knows who it is. Like, try and get into the top 4. Now is the right time to try and do that. But unfortunately, because you're probably going to have to play the patience game, like the rest says. But I do think it was the right move. Like, right now is a really good time to try and tier up before anyone really has a good suss of who that is. But it will gradually get harder and harder to do, and that's why now's a good time.
I mean, in a one quarterback, it's pretty clear, I think, already.
But I'm definitely not as plugged in as you two. I got to imagine like someone in your league might, just be as unplugged as I am, and not have Zach and Russ to tune them into it because they don't check out the grind. I don't think you're alone in that feeling. Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to go on that rant, but it's good to know I'm not alone. Adonai Mitchell is the 4th best wide receiver in the class. Bold take.
Get more Jewish, Peter.
That is okay. That is very bold. He is 12 out of the 12 that I've watched.
Doesn't sound good.
I mean, he's fine. Look, no. So you say that, but 10 out of the 12, really good. 10 out of the 12 players are players that I am actively excited about drafting. That just never happens. So to put that in perspective, last year there were 2 that I was at, and that was a good class. But this class has 2 of the top 10 wide receivers that I have watched since 2017.
It's a good thing to emphasize.
This is a very good class of wide receivers.
Grading on a curve here, the role, but
yeah. I like Adonai Mitchell's fine, but he's not top 4 in this class.
John, 10 team.
He's not even the best receiver on his team.
What team's he on?
Texas.
No good wide receivers come from Texas.
Oh, Xavier Worthy,
Right.
baby. It's happening.
A basketball
It's
player.
happening. Yeah. No, that was James.
Yeah, all right. I was close.
I don't even have him in my thing yet. Anyway,
You're going to like him.
PPR traded the 101, the 108, and Chubb for Chase, the 104, and the 25 second. Yeah, yeah. Chase, nice.
I mean, so here's the thing. Caleb Williams is probably be drafted pretty close to Chase. So like you made out pretty great by getting the 104 back. Like, and especially in a 10 team where no, hold on, words. In a 10 team super flex leagues, quarterbacks are a little devalued because of everyone can have 3. You know, it's not as the demand isn't as high as it is in 12 plus leagugues. So, and
I
Caleb
get the
Williams
sense Harrison's going to be pretty close to the 101, even in a super flex this year. Like people,
I'm not ready to say it, but there's a lot of people that think that. Like I saw a Trade Addicts 1 trade went down with the 101, and and he's like, someone said something about Marvin Harrison Jr. And I was like, hey man, Shane's gonna be thrilled to get Caleb Williams at 2. And they replied, he'd be thrilled to get Marvin Harrison Jr. at 2. And I'm like, I guess that's fair.
So psychologically, we just had a year where Bijan was the one as a position player, and people missed out on CJ Stroud.
But CJ Stroud wasn't the first quarterback.
It doesn't matter because we don't think like that. We think we missed out on CJ Stroud, the quarterback. No, like that's how we think. We missed out on CJ Stroud, and Bijan wasn't what everyone said he is. He is what everyone said he is. But he didn't perform that way in year 1. And so people are psychologically, I think you're going to see a lot of Caleb Williams at 1. And I think you're going to see a lot of Drake May at 2.
Yeah, I do think, especially if it almost feels like I should say when Caleb Williams and Drake May go 1 and 2, and even if Harrison goes 4, which seems, assuming no movement up top, likely. I really hope the Patriots don't take Marvin Harrison Jr.
I mean, I'd rather have him than
Jaden Daniels.
Daniels, but.
So I mean, I haven't even looked at this class, but I will say I do have the 102 in the DLF Podcasters League because I got John Hogue's pick. I realized I wasn't winning like week 4. We talked about it, and I started trading for next year. And I've been feeling pretty good about it because I'm pretty sure I'll have the option of Harrison, mainly because I'm pretty sure John Hogue has my pick. And so I have the 101, and he can't resist a quarterback. So this is relevant to me. So it's just keep on it, all right? Let me know in advance. Is Jalen Hurts a sell high? No.
I mean, it depends on how high, but
Jalen Hurts is still a top tier quarterback. He is he's in that top tier of 3. If you can get that price, then yes, sure. But I don't think he's going to be bad now if that's what the insinuation is.
I mean, yeah, value's value, but like I don't expect so. Since you're asking the question, I don't expect so. I think you'd be accepting too low a value. And again, I would trade him 1-to-1 for Allen or 1-to-1 for Mahomes and feel pretty good about it. Like I have him in that tier. That's what that kind of means. And quite often I put him at the top of that tier just to have the difference in my ranks.
He was one of 2 quarterbacks points per game this year that were able to separate themselves from Joe Flacco. So, I mean, just put that out there.
The Jalen Hurts fantasy arc has paid off so many times. 1, lower drafted. 2, everyone was convincing themselves that the Eagles were going to replace him in the draft, and so there was another window after he had a great rookie season, and we could get him again. And now everyone's going to be like, yeah. So another window for Jalen Hurts in Dynasty would be awesome.
It's like the one time that Rocky and I have agreed on a take. Where you, because he's got the Eagles, like Jalen Hurts is going to be good, and I was like, yeah, Jalen Hurts is going to be good, and it was kismet because he and I always
Kismet.
are like on the opposite side of history.
I need to update my rookie spread. It would make me feel better. I will get that done as soon as I can. I was
Get on
updating
it,
for week
Genji.
18 for the NFL database today, so I kind of got distracted on it. Matt, I've got 2 offers in different leagues. The 101, I'm guessing. Both
I know.
PPR, one
You
QB
can tell when
PPR
people don't
league,
use Excel.
both massive rebuilds. Pickens, Pickett, the 106,
No.
and the other trade, ETN, Dell.
No.
No to both.
Neither of those are okay. Well, the Pickens.
The
and
first
the
one's
106 is
closer.
kind of
I
bad.
think that's the most interesting. Yeah.
I don't want either of them, to be honest. And I really do like Tank Dell, but Marvin Harrison Jr. is that guy, and he's going to be a top 4 startup pick in a 1 QB. Like Jefferson Chase, Jefferson Chase, Lamb, Bijan, then Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe.
Probably
He's
take him
getting
over the
me.
running back, but that's just how I play. But yeah,
Me too. But I try and talk for other people who want that running back. So like honestly, none of that gets me to where that level of value is. And I love Tank Dell, but the ETN, man, when he wasn't scoring 2 touchdowns a game, it was just very meh. And Pickens in the 106 is two rose-colored glasses for me to sell what has such insulated value right now.
Agreed.
and that's the thing is you're going to be able to get those from now until your draft. Like those two deals
draft clock runs out.
Yeah, those 2 deals will be there. So those are not like don't worry about making those trades now. Like let's let the process unfold a little bit, Matt.
Yeah, and especially in massive rebuild, you won't want ETN anyway, just to because I don't think you can flip him for the ETN doesn't seem like a super flippable asset, especially in the non-point scoring season. If you can get that switch to a young wide receiver around the same value, it starts to get a lot more interesting. But as is, I don't really even think about either of those.
I'm gonna spend some in the Azure office this off season, apparently.
That's wild.
Hold on. I'm in 2 of them. Okay. Well, the Superflex one is not at the Najee level yet.
What round are you in?
3rd.
That's not quite there.
Yeah. But hold on. The 1 QB one just finished. So
you're almost to the Najee range.
Yeah. Najee went 10. No, not 10. Went 804. And who are we talking about? Chase Brown.
That's wild.
1008.
Are you going to be surprised if Mixon runs it back again?
No.
He's the only thing it always comes down to him is if the Bengals ever if the Bengals want to keep Higgins, Mixon's gone.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Mixon might finally it's been a year and a half where the money's not going to be worth it. The money's not going to be worth it. But they just kept him. The money might not be worth it now with Higgins and Chase on the line.
Yeah.
I'm doing a Dynasty mock draft. I think I mentioned 1 QB, and it keeps hitting me. So, I got Najee Harris in there in round 8. That's why I was looking. But this is my draft in a 1 QB league, in a mock draft, to be fair. Jamar Chase, obviously, the 103 is normal. Saquon Barkley in the 2nd round. DK Metcalf in the 3rd, which I thought was awesome. Austin Eckler, DeAndre Swift. I am so running back heavy in this mock draft. It's kind of insane.
I drafted at the 11.
Eckler, Swift, Harris, Derrick Henry in the 10th, because I know he's old.
Yeah, he's 100.
He's like 1 million years old, whatever. And I just took Kareem Hunt. I just found out on an auto pick because I made a list. So
I picked at the 11, and I went Chris Olave, Devonta Smith, and then at the 311, I took Jaden Reed and then Jalen Hurts at the 4. At 402.
Hurts makes sense to me. But it's a whole Reed tier wide receivers. I'm just skipping for the running backs in that zone.
Yeah, I mean, Travis Etienne probably wasn't the right choice because he's the
Joe!
I'm
next.
taking this as a positive emoji just
That's
because.
Joe.
That is a
Well, no, it's Joe. That's why I assume
been
it's positive.
forever. That is a weirdly
New profile picture, new
cute.
emoji. Yeah. Joe seems to switch accounts a lot. Like, it's a good job she keeps her name the same because otherwise I wouldn't know. But
These
yeah,
parts
welcome
of it.
back.
Unless that's just another
Yeah.
Joanna.
I guess
That-
it could be.
This could be awkward. Yeah, true. Sean Mack 06, 12 teams start 12 Superflex. Have Hurts, Young, Brees has this team, which looks pretty good. Yep. The 108, the 112, 4 mid-seconds this year. Any guys pop out as a sell? Reed, to me, I think you can find some serious, if you have serious hype on him. Dotson Mingo, if they have value, go those guys, but they don't. And McBride, maybe. Like, I'm happy to keep him, so I don't get the ire. But I mean, you've looked into him in the year he actually broke out, and if he's at anything close to a mid first, I might try a trade. But otherwise, you're just pretty happy to have like a top 4 or 5 tight end.
You stream tight ends to find the tight end you no longer have to stream with.
Yeah.
You found McBride. Just ride him for a while before you get rid of him.
Maybe. But
I don't
maybe you
feel the
stream
need to get
tight
rid
ends
of
to
him right
catch
away.
one to trade him and then keep streaming tight ends because it's actually pretty easy.
The only thing I would say is, like, while I don't like, I really do like Jaden Reed, but like, if you do find someone that's super high on him, or even kind of Ayuk, if you can like,
I think Ayuk, yeah, good.
throw them with the 108 and try and get up to the 5 or 6,
Yeah.
like you'll get like a real up. Go get Malik Neighbors,
Yeah.
QB3 if he falls a little bit. Like, and again, that's not something you have to do now by any means, but like that's the only thing you really you don't really need to do much because QB2 is a little bit of an issue unless Young takes that step, unless you just didn't list who your real QB2 is. But other than that, which honestly, go get the next, Jared, or just get Jared Goff when the season starts, kind of thing. Like, so there's nothing to really, there's nothing you need to do now, especially like, that's the rough part. Like, it's really funny. Like, even mid-season, Peter doesn't bother reading people's teams whenever they're talking trades. Now there's zero reason to read teams. It's really because you're not setting lineups for like 8 months. It's all about just building the dynasty value of your team so you can build the best team when you need to have a team, assuming you have an active league.
Bullseye emoji or something. Genji, after 18 weeks, do we have final thoughts on Reed and Rice? Both did really well the rookie seasons. I want Rice over Reed, and I think what I'm saying about the last one as well, I think Reed's value in some leagues is going to be higher than Rice, which is where Reed's might be a trade away in some cases. But both had positive rookie seasons. There's still Rice is the closest, but they're still not in the Addison tier. And I think in some situations, in some leagues, some owners in some leagues are going to really be tempted to have him there with Dell and Addison and JSN. And I still think they're a cut above value-wise.
I got to go. My kids are awake and it's practically 11 o'clock. But I do need to say, I know Brainburst asked later on if I'm caught up on Doctor Who specials. Yes. Shooty Gatwa is electric. He is a beautiful human and Time Lord. I'm so looking forward to new Doctor Who. I am like geeked out looking forward to it. On that note,
good night, Russ.
Bye. Just me and you, Zach. Down to Nate Hamilton. I know that guy. It feels like a trap. I'm staying away from the Falcons players no matter what next season. Yeah, especially if the value is rising. Unfortunately, probably not. Yeah, it's fun to blame everything on Arthur Smith, mainly because it's all his fault. But yeah, I don't think it's Chris Givler. I'm saying it with you. My wide receiver core and my rebuilder are all potentials and no real studs. Trade them. While JSN aside, trade him. I think JSN's probably a keep. Pickens, Downs, JMO. If you're on a rebuilder, these are all guys to like throw at people for those 25 picks. Is a good window right now. But according to Zach, and I trust him, it's a really good year to sneak out this year's pick, even though you're going to be paying a premium at this point. It's better to do it earlier in the offseason than later, as we were saying earlier as well.
25, I don't think has the quarter. Like there'll be some running backs in 25, but I don't think they'll have
pure value.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, but the value is tied to the value now is different than the value once we start
later,
like talking about the play. So like the value of 24 picks last year was great. In 2 months, you're not going to be able to buy them for what you could have last year.
I agree. Like now's a better time to try and trade into 24. I mean, on a rebuilder, my main concern is avoiding risk, and 25 picks have less risk, and I know the value does arc up, and so like I'm interested in them from that perspective. But it's a good window to try and trade into 24. It's the last probably decent window outside of going and getting your guy, which I'm always a fan of. And yeah, there's no one on this list apart from maybe JSN that I'd be scared to try and do that with. Like add your hopefully later first because you've made some trades to one of these guys, see if you can move up a bit more, get an extra one, whatever, and try and get some access to those early picks this year on a rebuilder. Or again, as the window closes, or if the window's closed in your league, just stop going up to 25. I'm fine with that too. Like these aren't guys again, apart from maybe JSN, then I'm particularly putting the keeper asterisk on,
Yeah, and I think especially with this group, Pickens and Jameson Williams are the players with a little bit of buzz that you might be able to get. You might be able to extract just a little bit more from your league mates because they're players that you hear pop. They got a little excitement. They've got just that little bit extra.
Yeah, the players. Some of these guys, and I think Genji's highlighted most of them, are guys who should have lost that little temptation. But if they haven't, trade for it. Yeah, for sure. Peter goes for 265, 50, 20, and 16 in Atlanta. No, I doubt that. I would die without stepping on the field.
No way he throws that many picks.
Why won't Aaron Rodgers go away? Because they pay him.
That's a good question.
And it also
Can we lock
makes
him in a dark room?
He's a man that craves relevance, let's face it. So do we. He is nothing but a distraction. True. Most surprising coach firing. I actually know of the one, Arthur Smith, and it's not that surprising.
Like Pete Carroll kind of firing himself. Well, I guess they talked and he stepped down. So Pete Carroll is now a special assistant or something. Like he's guiding the process as opposed to calling the plays.
All right.
So that was kind of an interesting one to me. But
Genji, I feel you on this. Like we knew it was a breakout tight end class year, and I love Trey McBride coming in. His my profile grade on him, or number on him, whatever, was higher than Evan Ingram. It's higher than Brock Bowers was up till last year. It was in the tier with Kyle Pitts, and I just honestly, I don't think it. I think he turned up on a list when I made the video, but I don't think I ever focused him in my leagues or for content. So I ended up with Ingram. I ended up with Sam Laporta a lot, but McBride, unless he was already on my team, I don't think I made many moves to get him. Got Jake Ferguson a little bit, but yeah, McBride, not a miss, but like I really wish he would have showed up for me a little bit more. Did you do better, Zach?
I ended up with McBride in that rookie class because he was
from the rookie class.
And again, like those are the same types of, like if you go back and look at tight end tweets that I do on occasion, like I'll have a list of like 4 or 5 tight ends that I'm like, go get these guys because one of them is going to do something. And has always been on that since he came into the league. Again, the profile athletically, what he did in college to me on film put him in that echelon. So, and again, like this past class, it was Laporta. It was, I didn't like Kincaid as much as a lot of people did, but I was taking a lot of Tucker Kraft shots deep.
Yes, you were. You mentioned that specifically just before the season hit. You were like, "That's one guy I want to go and get."
Yeah,
and you also mentioned it in the season before he had that big game.
And you know what? And I actually went on Drinking and Talking Fantasy with Jake Trowbridge and Dustin Lunt, and like mid-season before Kraft started doing what he did at the end of the season, and said, to me, this was a Mark Andrews situation where he was drafted second, but to me, he was clearly the more talented tight end. Even though Musgrave was fine in the beginning of the season, I still think Tucker Kraft is the better player there in Green Bay.
Braylon Dolchich. He's now one of the guys that'll be on my I'll add him if everyone forgets about him list kind of a thing. Like tight ends take weird arcs. And this year he just took off basically with an injury. I was after the 106 for McBride. What do you think, Frank? I think that's...
Is it Superflex? Or is this Gazerk was the one quarterback, right? If it's Superflex, I'd probably take that. I mean, I know I'd take that. In a one quarterback, probably, but it's, I mean, that's a lot closer to me. But again, I think McBride can be in that. I think McBride can be in that echelon of because Kelsey's he's not retired yet, but he is getting toward where you can see him.
The value
potentially be
slouching.
The value is going to be gone, but you can potentially see him not be the producer that he has been.
Where we thinking Bowers might go a little earlier than this? It's the only thing that gives me some hesitation. And
in a one quarterback,
remembering your team that was
in a one quarterback, Bowers should be going 103.
And remembering your team, which is pretty solid, I don't think you're building. And so you should probably just value having a young tight end you're going to start, to be honest with you. But I don't think this value is as far off for me. But you have no, I don't know you're going to do better than McBride at the 106. It's not quite hot enough, but it's a good value if I was looking for value. But your team's good enough. I'm probably not in the value mindset, so I'm probably going to say no. But it's a tempter. 10-team Superflex trade Waddle plus a 107 for Puka. I want to value Puka. I want to if it was Addison that had that year, I'd be like, yeah, get Addison. But I think I'm on the Waddle side because Waddle's the one that I think belongs in that tier, and clearly he's the 107 away from it right now. So I think I'm on the Waddle side.
Curious where Puka falls for you in wide receiver, where you have him in the list of wide receivers.
I put him top 12. I know that. I can answer exactly. And again, I'll probably tweak these, but right now he's wide receiver 7. It's a tier with Olave in it. I actually have Puka slightly higher than Waddle, just that's where the value should be, but I prefer Waddle with slightly cheaper value.
Yeah, so I don't think I'm giving
Jefferson Chase. Right? Sorry, Karen.
No, to me, the 107 is too much for the difference between Waddle and Puka.
Yeah, I want the Waddle side. Yeah.
Yep. And it's nothing not to denigrate Puka. Puka's fantastic, but they're in a similar tier.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Puka, I think that's where the value should be, but I think the 107 is too much on top of him. That's what I'd see in this class, to be fair. But Zach says I'll be pretty happy. So. Zach Harris, evening guys. 12 team start 10 Dynasty Superflex PPR. Would you trade Bijan and James Cook for the 102 12 team Superflex and Zamir White? The 101 has 0 QBs of value, so a QB is probably going 101, you guess. feel there's a good chance one or two is Harrison. It's a heavy ass trade. Bajon and Cooks for Harrison and Zamir White doesn't matter that much to me. I kind of want to keep Bajon Robinson, but yeah, that 1 or 2 is real tempting in a super flex.
So this is kind of the type of trade I would start to get out on Bijan Robinson with, but I don't like Marvin Harrison Jr. is not a young, proven wide receiver yet. And again, this is not saying that like he's fantastic and I want to draft him. I think he will be incredibly successful. He probably enters the league as wide receiver 4. Like I feel like that's pretty close to where like it's Jefferson, Chase, CeeDee Lamb, and then I think
Sorry, Amon-Ra is my next. I haven't got CD.
You have him over CD?
Yeah. Amon-Ra, AJ Brown, then CeeDee Lamb. But remember, I'm ranking value a little bit when I rank.
Yeah. That's wild to me. But
it's not whose bet was. Okay. I love Amon-Ra. I'll take.
Oh, I do too. Like, and he'd be 4 until Marvin Harrison comes in, and I think probably Marvin Harrison's 4, and then St. Brown's 5, and then you're in the like AJ Brown neighborhood.
Startup draft. Would you take Harrison or Bajon Robinson first? Harrison, right?
Harrison. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So it's probably Harrison.
Yeah, but like they're pretty even. So, but I would take Harrison. But then James Cook over Zamir White by like a lot,
quite a bit. Yeah. So it's nearly there. Take White out and see if you can get something better, or take Cook out and offer a second. And I'm interested.
Yeah.
Dallin Hawker is my tight end 2. Where do you have him? Oh,
I have not watched him yet, but Jazz, I will like as this process unfolds, as we get closer to the combine and the draft. Like I will watch more players and we will have more conversations. But I try to watch between 8 and 12 games, and doing that with the schedule I've got right now takes me a minute. But I'm through 12 wide receivers. I probably will get through 18 to 20 wide receivers. We'll probably do 12 or 14 running backs, some tight ends, and 5 or 6 quarterbacks, and call it a day.
I said at the start of last season, you will get bored of my rookie takes by the time this draft gets hit, by the time your draft gets hit. We got plenty of time, but right now I'm just in that. I have no idea. Sorry to keep saying it. I actually don't have his ID listed yet, so I actually don't even have his stats imported from the little data that I have, Mr. Holker. So, pretty good name. We need to get fantasy community established on Threads. They're trying, but I'm finding it hard to get engaged over there. I've been posting a little bit, but hopefully. He was killing Colorado. I'm guessing that's Holker. Body of work is very good. Good to know. Yeah, that's who they were thinking of. The next Jamar Chase, is that too strong for Mr. Odunth?
Oh, well, hold on. Who's the next? He says Odunze's the next Jamar Chase?
I think.
Nah, fam.
Unless he's still talking about the tight end.
No.
Trade Dak for McBride and a 1 QB. Yeah.
I don't mind that. I mean, I think
I don't mind it. About good.
I think there's a better chance that McBride is a difference maker than Dak. Like Dak's good,
again, yes,
but like a positional advantage. Yep.
In a super flex, obviously no, but a 1 QB, yeah, there. Hello, gentlemen. Still love Penix, even after that game on Monday. Lost.
He is really accurate. But again, I haven't watched anything other than his receivers, so I haven't sat down and watched him make all of the throws in games and where I was actually watching him. But he's got a really good deep ball. It's very accurate. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up. I think he probably falls a little bit because the NFL has this weird like island game fixation, just like everybody else, where they're like, oh, he couldn't do it in prime time. It was, he couldn't do it in the national championship. And so it probably didn't help, but I think he's fine. I don't know that he's going to be a difference making quarterback, but I think he can get the job done at the next level.
Quick glance, he still looks third under Williams and me. Maybe
he's probably fourth. Jaden Daniels, I think, probably goes ahead of him.
Oh, yeah. Puff Pass Kick, welcome back. It's off season. Yay! What up, dudes? How are those 2024? Yeah, again, I got no idea. Zach is well on his way, but he's got a longer road where I'm a lazy. I'll grab some stats eventually and just push them. Zach's doing some hard work.
The Hootenanny's about a month and change away. So,
Rayman, this makes it very easy to trade Jack for McBride.
Yeah. And
get yourself a tight end when you already have. Yeah. Also, Russ. How was Disney? He said he had a lot of fun, but problems with flights.
Yeah. But Philadelphia is nice this time of year.
Born and raised. James Tucker, do coaching changes make you more hype or more cautious evaluations on players? My evaluations on players don't change much in the few cases that I have valuation, because I don't have a lot. I play fantasy football, but I do also have some pretty firm evaluations of what I think of the player, but it's mostly fantasy football takes. But my evaluations won't change. My valuations change drastically based on what the community or the market is doing, and I try and guess at that and try and play in my leagues based on that. If my league isn't doing that, then nothing happens. But if my league is following that trend, hopefully something happens. I find a trade or something. Just to clarify evaluations and valuations, I don't think the players are any better or worse. Mostly when coaching changes happen from experience playing Dynasty, I find I am less likely to move my valuations on players, and other people are more likely to. So if the value goes down, I'm more likely to trade into them. If the value goes up, I'm more likely to trade out of them, just as a too long didn't read. Seahawks is prime example, or Patriots potentially. Yeah, if the valuation goes down on Seahawks, I'll be more likely to trade for them. And et al, as I just said.
I do think coaches have potential to affect what happens on the field, but I don't think our ability to predict that is very good outside of Arthur Smith is going to screw us.
I think they more than likely have a direct contribution to what happens on the field, but our prediction and tracking of where X, Y equals that's the result, especially in advance, sucks. I don't think we do it at all very well. Some people may be very good at it if you're following some that trying it, but I think as a group we suck at it. I know I do. Muck Gungle. That's why I'm saying it. Brian Thomas, wide receiver 4, with Amika and Troy Franklin just behind.
All right, got him at 4. Franklin is a couple of spots behind him. I like Troy Franklin. And Ibuka, I'm going to have to see if I can find a little bit more film on him from this past year. But, I was very underwhelmed by Emeka Ibuka. And I try not to go into the draft process, the rookie evaluation process with any knowledge of players. I really try to be as objective as I possibly can.
That's going to be hard for me this year because I'm so far behind.
Well,
and so many questions. I have firm opinions without knowing anything so far.
And that was like Ibuka was for such a long time the wide receiver 2 in this class, and then watching him, no, he's not. He's a decent slot possession guy. He's fine, but he's not a slot possession guy where I'm like, I gotta have him. And those are the types of receivers that I like. So I don't know. He didn't pop quite as much for me. McGonagall. I wanted him to, but he didn't.
Brian, I think he answered that for you before he left. Hey, Peter, what are the highlights of your fantasy season? Why is it David Bell rising from the dead scored 2 touchdowns? I mean, that's the answer, my friend. No, I think it's Tank Dell. Like, again, I have some disquiet and that I didn't separate from me enough from Josh Downs, although I liked and also had a solid, but no, I know it's good season. But that's just my own desire to actually be good. But Tank Dell being phenomenal is pretty cool for me. And also Sam Laporta, the fact we highlighted him, I managed to snag him in a few drafts because he was often the tight end too. And I was willing to take him that late first, early second really worked out for me a bunch of places. But really, it's a dynasty grind. If I'm honest with you, this is the most fun I have in fantasy these days. Which is saying it's a high mark, not just right now, not just these days. It's a high mark in my fantasy career in general. I'm enjoying these. Mostly because of Zach and Russ, not you guys, but still. Brian, Zach, are you salivating at the thought of Vrabel coaching the Pats like I am? Tis a dream come true for us Pats fans if we can get Vrabel.
I really would rather, if they're going away from Belichick, I want them to go away from Belichick.
Get out the tree, as it were.
Yeah, and see again. Like I think, and Russ and I talked about this in a DM earlier, but it's the league has continued to move, and what made Belichick so great was he had been at the vanguard of this forever, and it feels like he isn't right now and is trying to do the same thing where, like, yeah, you could throw out Reshae Caldwell and Tom Brady would still look good, but you can't throw out the wide receiver core that they had this year and expect Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi to be good. And so, like, continuing to do the same thing that worked without looking at what the league is and attacking the league has been a little frustrating. And so to kind of like stay in that coaching tree, I guess, but I don't know. I'd rather bring somebody in who's not Belichick, who's usually I think what happens when teams are successful with new coaches is they go the complete polar opposite of whatever the last coach was. So, but again, I don't know. I mean, it's coaching. I don't know. Like,
how did you guys do in your fantasy championship? That's a difficult question. No, I won 1, 2. I'm rebuilding, and the other one, I was unexpectedly not competing and started building by week 4. That's 1 of 4. That's not great. And my Patreon beat me in my Patreon league. But to be fair, I keep forgetting the sleeper exists. So that's my excuse there. And my team's pretty solid. My wide receivers are, if I remember right, I think I got like... Okay, where's sleeper? I forgot what my team even is. I did pick up another league on sleeper. Matt Spencer asked me to join one, and I forgot that. I'm building in that league too. I immediately took over the team and started selling things. So I'm going in the right direction in all of them, and I won one of the 2 leagues I thought I was competitive in. And the other one, DLF league, turns out not so competitive. Now, I was looking at this team the other day, and I was like, I'm doing okay. Yeah, Jalen Waddle, Deebo Samuel, Tank Dell, Jordan Addison. That feels pretty solid wide receiver core going into year 2. Russell Wilson, I thought he would add something to my team this year, and he didn't late, but they're all right. Good. Zach, how did you do? I don't actually know. Did you have a
playoffs in 3 of 5 Dynasty, playoffs in Scott Fishbowl, made it to the second round of the playoffs, and Scott Fishbowl got just completely obliterated. Won the only championship in Dynasty that I was in. took down TA 11. So one of Russ's Trade Addicts leagues beat Rocky in the championship by like less than 3 points. It was fantastic. Aaron Jones on the back of Aaron Jones.
That's the way that just makes it better. Some noob. Good evening, fellas. Are there any common mistakes to avoid in the offseason after winning the title? Good question. I still have my 24 first, 25 first, and second, and I'm kind of itching to buy some off-season player dips. No, I can't think of any that are specific to a winning team, as it were. I mean, you've got a pretty good roster. I'd keep going the direction you're going. You're always looking to balance value, and you're always looking to balance points per game. I guess the only thing I can think of off the top of my head is don't try to move in any direction too strong. Just because you won doesn't mean you immediately have to start trading for value, or that you should be against the idea of turning your roster over. You should still be willing to do that, even though it's a pretty solid team. If it moves your team, again, continuing down that value versus points per game arc. Zach?
Having that 24 first and knowing that a first, even though you're probably at the back, you are at the back end of the first, you just won. A first carries a little bit of cachet with it because it's a first round pick. And you're going to be able to move a first round pick, especially in 2024 when people start talking about this class. And so I would be kind of right now, not trading it, but be on identifying players that you would like to acquire. So young players that you think are reasonably proven that you could go potentially acquire for that first, that would be better than some of the players that you're going to be able to actually get in the late first of this draft class. So like
cash in the cachet as a
yeah. So for me, it's looking at players like Jordan Addison. I still believe in JSN. I know, Peter, you're kind of fence sitting on JSN, but like
I guess I am kind of fence sitting. I was going to disagree there, but I guess I'm still fence sitting a little bit.
But like
a little bit. Okay.
Like those types of players, maybe you can get somebody like Devontae Smith, that area of players, the guys who kind of had a little bit of a dip this year, even like a Drake London, where if people are frustrated with him, players that either you think are going to be productive, and I'm not a huge Drake London guy. There are a whole bunch of people who think Drake London is going to be hugely productive now that Arthur Smith is gone. And so
I was going to say that when Russ mentioned him, I think London's kind of on my if he's on the upswing, he's kind of a sell.
Well, but he's not on the upswing yet. So like this is a micro market. This is if you can acquire him now and then you buy him for what he's worth and sell him for what people think he's worth.
True. But no, I like that idea. With a late first and you're a winning team, don't be afraid to sell the cachet of the late first when it happens. And it might not be right now in your league, but as your league gets more interested in this draft, trade it to a team that's desperate for young, good players.
T. Higgins is a T. Higgins because he's down right now. Oh, he may not be a Bengal. Who knows what? He's going to play somewhere, and he's going to be a good wide receiver. He's either going to be a team's 1 or he's going to be a 1 as a 2 on the Bengals.
Hey, Brian. Welcome back.
Hey, Brian.
Let's see. Yes. Just to answer for Genji here, still pretty much. No, Stuck is a performance evaluation, which I don't really have. But yeah, fantasy, I think. The points are nice at his current value in ADP, but relative to where I'm at and you're at on him, Jazz, I think I'm still at. So much hate during this bad stretch, but his wide receivers are average. Wide receivers make the quarterback. I've always said that. Square up. Thoughts on moving Hurts at this point? No. Again, I've put him in that tier. He's the youngest member of that elite quarterback tier. In Dynasty, if there's another sell Hurts window, I'll be on the other side of. I'll be buying. Oops, I meant rookie wide receiver rankings. Gadzooks, it will be 2 more hours before you see this. That's true.
Give Peter a little credit. It was only 50 minutes.
That's true. We're moving. We're booking it today. Super. You've got no idea how often I get the question. What order do you read the questions on Dynasty Grind? Because they ask and then they can't stick around for an hour. Because
the order.
do that. And they're like, I'm like, yeah, that's literally the order it shows up. It might be different than the order you see on whatever platform you're watching on too, because the Twitch and the Facebook, they all kind of intermix in this one stream thing. You try it. I have to keep 5. It's Superflex Dynasty. I have to keep 5. Superflex Dynasty. Options on Mahomes, CMC, Hall, Olave, Lamb, St. Brown. So, it's a great choice. Great list to have a choice on. Which 5 would you keep from this list, Zach? Am I crazy for thinking about dropping Mahomes and hoping to grab a Purdy? I mean, it's never bad. Quarterback's the easiest replacement level outside of the Mahomes, Allen, and Hurts tier. It's a little easier to come by, so it's not crazy. But to look at the list, it's a super flex. In a keeper league, if there's no cost to keeping any of them, because he didn't say there was. Oh, wait, there is a second part. Or Fields at the 10th spot in our draft. Yeah, no, that's not the answer.
Man.
Keeper league, no penalty. The Superflex. Would you keep CMC for another year? I think I would. Mahomes, CMC, Hall, Lamb, St. Brown. Oh, Wilson's right there. And Debo Laporta. I honestly don't know.
That's the thing. So, like, man, your positional advantages are Mahomes, CMC, and Laporta.
And Laporta.
And honestly, Lamb. Okay, so those are the 4 that I'm keeping: Mahomes, CMC, Lamb, Laporta.
Then the other one would be St. Brown.
It's for me. Probably St. Brown over Hall. But that's tough. It's a
really fun Sophie's choice.
I don't mind. I don't mind the idea of throwing Mahomes back and trying to grab a couple of quarterbacks in the draft, but you're going to have a different type of your roster construction is going to be a little thin at quarterback, even though you have CMC, Hall, Lamb, St. Brown, and Laporta. But I
was going to try and make a case for keeping CMC and Hall, Laporta, Mahomes, and just keeping one of your wide receivers, because then you got running back solid. But I mean, even in a keeper league, you have to respect the variability, mostly because of injuries, of running back, and it's just you got a dynasty a little bit. I think it's better to drop Hall and keep another of those wide receivers more often, more on average.
Yeah.
And so, Lamb, St. Brown, CMC, Mahomes, Laporta. Because the thing is, Debo's probably still going to be an option for you in the draft. So he's, despite the fact I think he's a value in Dynasty, in your situation, he's got to go. Wilson, too.
Same thing, yeah.
Similar story. I would love to keep him, and Olave. So, those are the 3. And Hall just goes because of running back viability. You got to keep the wide receivers, I think. And that's it. But again, you just have too good of a team, I guess. It's a fun problem to have. Puff Pass Kick. I'm going to try and write rookie reviews like Zach. I would love to see those. Lad McCorkey is like Star Kid's laddie in The Lost Boys. He's not the head vampire, but he does have some bite. First attempt. It's pretty good first draft. Keep working.
I like it.
Also said 2 instead of trying to save space and still ran out. No problem, man. I kind of like Jacoby Myers. Adams will probably be gone. I like Jacoby Myers, but just don't get it twisted, right? He's not an Adams replacement, Yeah, the 102 owner is locked in on Nabbers. I might sell my soul to get him. I don't know.
To go get neighbors or to go get
I was going to say, I did. I thought you said you had the 101 owner was locked in on a quarterback in, I don't know. I'm not, not up to date on rookies enough to say who I'd sell my soul for. Probably none. It's just fantasy. But you know what I mean. Jordan has been pretty good lately. He scores touchdowns. To pair with Chase, May after the 104, the 107, the 10 for the 102. Fat Harrison, okay. 4 and the 7 for the 2. Yeah. I don't mind adding the 7 to get it up that far. Again, that's just generic rookie take, so not this particular class. Don't even think he would take it. Wow.
Oh, because he wants Neighbors.
So
then move up to the 3 when he takes Neighbors, or before he takes Neighbors, whatever.
Thing. Also, my league is 10-man, not 12, so that's why I'm leaning towards dropping Mahomes. Yeah, 10-man is a little easier, but I really expect a bounce back year for Mahomes. And again, positional. I think Zach broke it down really well there. You go for your positional difference makers first in a keeper, and Mahomes is just still one of those.
And Mahomes, I think, is a difference maker where, as much as I like Breece Hall, he's not quite like he's close, but CMC is the different. Like CMC is the difference maker at that position.
Running backs that much, yeah. Gelato time. Zach Troy Franklin.
Yeah, I like Troy Franklin. He's in the tier. So to me, it's Marvin Harrison Jr. It is Malik Neighbors. So like Harrison in a tier, Neighbors in a tier, and then it is, and this is probably going to be a little bit, but it's Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas, and Odunze in a tier, and then I think Troy Franklin is probably in that next tier for me, right behind Odunze. So I could see him being as high as 6 in this class. Like I think he's really good.
Okay, I'm not engaging with the Jordan Love talk anymore. Sorry, the Chase Brown team will get out of control over the summer. Well, in that case,
it's going to be
a good time to trade for him, but I'm not all in on it. 12-team Superflex start 10, 2 tight end premium. Give Puka, get JSN in the 105. Yeah, I think the JSN side. And the Superflex, the 105.
Yeah, the Superflex, you're getting, again, with the 105, right? There are going to be at least 2 quarterbacks go. There's going to be at least Marvin Harrison and Neighbors go, or probably. So now you're at a quarterback or Bowers, or you're going to get a quarterback Bowers or Malik Neighbors at 105. Yes, I would do that. I would take JSN in the 105.
Just fresh. When I look at the other top QBs, Hurts, Allen, Prescott, Jackson, Purdy, his surrounding talent doesn't compare. Kraft is good. Yeah. Don't read a single season for a holistic way to view a quarterback position. Like most great difference-making QBs have one good receiver. That is true, but as we had in that podcast with me, you, and Jacob that one time, I don't think the interplay is it's one of those things I just don't think we're good at knowing. I think a quarterback can be elite without a great receiver, and I think the opposite is also true. They normally pair, but it's also not true that a wide receiver is going to be made great. Like chasing the receivers of good QBs tends to result in more value losses and value wins, in other words. Allen's a really great example of this, of how I stayed in on Allen, so I was quite happy to take Josh Ferguson. CeeDee Lamb's value never really dropped that significantly. Apart from that one time everyone thought he couldn't break out in his 3rd year, and I told you he could. And he did. So, yeah, people forget that some quarterbacks have that in the range of outcomes because they're not Hurts or Allen or Mahomes. But Dak has had in that range. And same with Jackson. In fact, Lamar Jackson's a great example of how you can't always bet on the skill positions, and not just because he's a rushing quarterback. And sometimes it's team and scheme as well. Mark Andrews, even without him, Lamar Jackson was still that elite difference maker this year. CeeDee Lamb is wide receiver 2. I don't hate it. I'm not hating on CeeDee Lamb. I just I have some players I would keep in a similar tier, and I'm willing to tear down for that extra. Yeah.
Can I go?
That extra.
Can I go just quick back to the quarterback wide receiver relationship?
Yep.
Do you know what the 3 best starts of a season in history are?
No.
Okay. So through 4 games, the 3 best starts in history are Calvin Johnson in 2012 with 423 yards, Cooper Kupp in 21 with 431 yards, and Puka Nacua this past year with 501 yards. You know what the variable is between or the constant, I guess, not even the variable, the constant. You know who played quarterback?
Their mother's maiden name.
All three seasons, the quarterback was Matt Stafford.
There you go. Get Matt Stafford.
There you go.
He is pretty good.
He's the kingmaker.
Good point. I would rather have Reed over JSN. EJD, I wish you the best. I like Reed. I think JSN went hitting as he did a little bit towards the second half of the season. It's just better. He's got a higher ceiling. But cool. Gavin Ferguson, 12 team Superflex start 10. PPR give the 108 and the 110. Get Tyreek and a 25 first. Don't trade into Tyreek in Dynasty right now in general. Especially where you're trying to get points per game and a later pick. It's a little that could work actually. I could see that.
I don't mind that. That's fine. I'll re-roll that.
Yeah, I'm backing up off my own take. The 108 and the 110, they're both outside the top 5 picks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I kind of like the Tyreek side in this. Pretty easy, Gavin. Jazz Fresh, with a new head coach incoming, what are people doing with Levis?
Like
Nothing.
this. Yeah, it's a shrug. Levis is fine. He's got a big arm. He does some stupid things with his big arm, but
he was a stretch even in this year's rookie draft, so I don't think I'm gonna get on the train, as it were, now.
Yeah.
I have no shares, but what would you look to add cheap? For Levis?
Oh, would look at you. And I don't mind that. Like if you can get him for a song, like any quarterback who's gonna start in a Superflex league is good to have on your on your bench. But
I mean, if it's good enough to trade for Jake Browning, it's good enough to trade for Will Levis. There's my that's
is that a hard and fast rule? More of a guideline.
I'm flexible. Kevin Ferguson, your best guess. Does a projected elite wide receiver like Marvin Harrison Jr. or the Cardinals on the Cardinals or Bears concern you on McBride and commit fantasy production? Best guess?
Good players,
good players help good players.
Yeah.
That's my default. And what happens majority of the time. Puka really should be top 5. He really should be. I can't wait for him to get there so that I could more happily say you should trade Puka away for all these values. So far, the trades have been pretty good for Puka.
But how do you get Puka? How do you get him in the top 5 though? Because you've got Chase, Jefferson, and Lamb. I mean, whatever order. Like I don't care the order, but you have those 3. You've got St. Brown, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. is coming along in 3 months. Like he's close. I mean, like Pete, you said he's top 7.
7.
But yeah, so you can't be upset about Puka Nacua. And if you want to put him over AJ Brown, that's fine. Like I'm not gonna fight you over it, but
value-wise, probably definitely.
Yeah.
But I've got AJ Brown above him literally because I expect AJ Brown to come with a plus if you're trading Puka to them, and I take AJ Brown in the plus. But straight up, it's Puka.
Yeah.
Lakers ex-commander, sup boys? How do you deal with managers who don't trade? You don't literally
poke them with a stick.
I went to
you gonna trade now? You gonna
get a better offer next year. I mean, you can't make managers play. It's their team. They can play it however they want. Unfortunately, if you're not having fun in the league because there's not enough activity, you can leave and find hopefully another league with hopefully more activity. I did do a podcast, and I've asked this question a few times to a few different people. The one to listen to, though, not because I'm on it, because Matt Price is on it, is when I interview Matt Price for the Dynasty Crossroads, because I think he's a king. As far as people I've played with, not to diss anyone else that I've played with, because many are good at it, Matt moves a league to action better than anyone else I've played with. Like, literally, I want something to happen here. He sets up one of the things you hear podcasters say to try, and it never worked for you. Matt gets it to work. Hold an auction. Tell everyone you're going to make a trade no matter what in a week, and watch the offers roll in. It never works for me. And so I had Matt on, and I asked him about how you, because he did that to us. Like, it's a DLF podcast league, and we're all staunchly, I know my value. I'm not going to get pushed around or psychologically. He did it to all of us. Literally, he just pushed us all around as if we had no defenses. He's very good at it. So one, check out Matt Price on Twitter. He's a DLF Fanting member. He's on the DLF Fanting podcast pretty often, and he's very good at it. I still really don't know how he did it to get those things to work. But he's got some ideas, and some of those were them. He would go to the league chat and say, look, I'm going to make this kind of trade, or I'm going to trade away this player for the best offer in X amount of time. And so he makes it kind of a game, and everyone sends an offer. That was one thing I saw him try, and he was a master at getting pretty decent trades done that didn't move the needle much for either team, but getting that ball rolling so other teams were more interested in trading. No new techniques, but he was very good at doing it. And I think he's because he's an honest arbiter, not trying to rip anyone off, and everyone knows that, if you know what I mean. Like, he's winning on value in the end because he's very good, but he doesn't send you a bad trade or make you do a bad trade. He's always very reasonable. So yeah, that's a podcast I listened to, the guy I would check out. I mean, the other one, Dynasty Wall Street, if you're interested in trades, getting them done, I had to tempt people away. John Bosch, Bob Gilchrist, the best value tempters and evaluators that I know of. And they're very good at finding value in what looks like a very even trade, but knowing the game theory of how to get it done. I recommend that one as well. Outside of that, in my experience, managers who don't trade. They might change their way of playing, but you can't bait them into it. You can't talk them into it. And also, you don't want to. You don't want anyone in your DMs telling you how to play Dynasty either. Maybe advice, sure, but it's normally not that when your league mate sends it to you, right? So it's normally, or at least feels, condescending. It's the same reason I say don't send trade comments in trade offers. I've never written anything in that little box that after I posted it or sent it, I read it again and it sounds condescending, even though I didn't mean it that way. There's something about that little box that just condescending converts everything. And that's what you're going to run into. There's no way of communicating with them. Hey, look, I want to make great trades with you, but you won't let me. It's always going to come across the wrong way. So the best you can do is stay active, send good trades, consider their trades heavily, try to send reasonable counters, but honestly, in my experience, they don't trade, so they're not getting it. And that's fine. Like, Zach's not a big trader either, and he's still a fun league manager to be in. He does do some trades, especially during the draft when he's trying to buy on credit and stuff. So you just sometimes have to find their sweet spot.
I think that's it. And the other thing you can do is make trades with other players in your other managers in your league, because the more once that starts moving, the more likely it is that other people are going to start moving. And once one trade kind of happens with one of those managers, the chance of them making another one is better. And so that's what I would say is even if you can't get things done with a couple of specific managers in your league, keep working on trades and keep trying to find other avenues with other managers to make deals, because the more action that goes on, it kind of breeds more throughout the league. So
yeah, and I think that's going at them directly. It's almost not the way. You got to find other ways of just making it a fun thing for them to do. Maybe no problem. Lakers ex-Commanders. Super Bowls. Also, Super Bowl predictions.
February. It'll happen in February.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I'll put money on that. Josh. Love Luke Lakey.
Lachey?
Has really little tape, but want to get him in every draft this year. Good to know. I don't even know what position he plays. That's how little I know. Right?
That's an Iowa tight end. That's what we do.
Bo Pons. Hey, I adopted an orphan, traded away Hill for 107 and a 25 first. At this point, that's probably a pretty good trade to get rid of Hill, but it kind of sucks. Give a 26th third. That's fine. Like I said, at this point, getting 2 picks for a wide receiver who's about nearly 50, I believe, even if he's one of those difference makers, it's probably on a rebuilder. You're evacuating some risk there. I see it. Other trade assets are Purdy. He didn't say whether it was a super flex or not. If it's not a super flex, he has no value. Justin Jefferson, Eckler, who should also try and trade on a rebuild. Pacheco, you should try and trade in a rebuild. In the sharper leagues I'm in, Pacheco carries some hefty, you get some interesting trade offers if you've got him on your roster, which I do. He's kind of like an under the radar guy. People love a running back on the Chiefs, you know?
Yeah.
And Geno. Yeah, again, if it's a super flex, Purdy and Geno are potential sells. But I don't think they carry any value in a 1 QB. We also still have the 104. Yeah, going in the right direction. The only Eckler and Justin Jefferson, the only one with definite values. I think you should probably keep Justin Jefferson 9 times out of 10, even on a rebuilder, unless you get just a great trade. Eckler, he's running back. He's probably better to trade in season, but you could start shopping him for picks in this window we've got before the value really goes up on him. Like we were saying earlier. Those are the best thoughts I can come up with right now. Zach, have I vamped enough? Did you come up with any better thoughts?
No, I think you hit this one.
Cool. Lima guy. Trade Tank down an elite third for Addison and Najee. Yes, I want Addison. So yeah.
Peter, I saw the internal struggle. It was King Solomon holding up the baby, and you're like, oh no. No,
Addison clearly above Dell, and Najee Harris is worth more than a third. So
yeah, I'm with you.
Thanks for the 199. I think I found out where those go. Just fresh. And Mika has never been on my draft board. Nice to hear someone admit he's not good.
He's not like he was in his. But I expected him to be good. You've heard he's good, and I watched him. I was like, he's fine, but not. He's not in the top 9 or 10.
Trying hard not to develop preconceived ideas of these players, and it's not working.
Well, you're going to look at the data anyway. You don't care what I say.
I care. Start 10. Give Pittman for the 105. Pittman.
Yes, I would rather have the 105.
Yeah. Close though. If it wasn't a super flex, I might be less tempted.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not a super flex, then you're out of the. But again, 105. Even if you don't think there are 3 quarterbacks, you get the top 2 quarterbacks there, and then there are 2 wide receivers and a tight end. So you're getting one of Neighbors or Bowers, and I would rather have either of them than Pittman.
B-Dags, I don't particularly want to roster Jordan Love, but the fantasy points are good. I don't think the value is going to last. I don't think he's a long-term starter. But a QB in a Superflex league, generic, especially who has those points when starting, potentially. Anything outside the elite tier, wherever you rank that in a rookie draft, wherever you draw the line, that's where the elite tier stops. Those first-round picks after that are worth Jordan Love. I would trade him for a quarterback.
I'd rather have probably him. Like if you can't get in the top 6, I'd rather have Love.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a better way of saying what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
12 teams in flex PPR. Also have Ramondre, I guess. Yeah, Ramondre might carry some value, but I think he's someone, again, running backs outside of Eckler, because he's got those difference makers. Go look at the top of the league, see who might be most interested in a 1-year winning running back, because that's the way they'll see him. They might trade their first for him. Plus, Ramondre, I think I just hold him wait. We need to see him start more games and do more points, I think, before you're going to get a decent trade. Okay?
Yeah, I like the I guess. I have Ramondre. I guess. Yeah.
I guess I have Ramondre. Team Shady, 12 team Superflex, 1 point PPR. Give away Josh Allen and Raheem Mostert. Give away. For Trevor Lawrence and Chris Olave.
And the 102.
102. Yes. Yeah. I like it. Allen's a difference maker here, but value-wise, that sounds pretty good. It's basically Allen for Lawrence, Olave, and the 102. I think that's pretty decent offer for one of those QBs. One of those top tier.
Yeah, that's hard to give away.
It's hard.
Allen. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's probably on that. It's probably on the Lawrence side, but
it's close though, which says a lot about how Allen should be hard to trade. Vrabel played in New England, never coached under Bill Belichick.
Played under Bill Belichick. They like people are they always he didn't coach. He played under him, like whatever. He didn't coach under anybody. He played under him.
What's a fair ask on top of the 102 to move off Anthony Richardson? If you can get the 102 for Anthony Richardson, you are stealing. Asking for a plus seems insane to me. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, but people again, Peter, this is where you diverged from, and this is what I was saying last year, which is why Richardson was the quarterback one. Yeah. Because the value, the people have this idea that he can be Hurts.
It's in his range of outcomes. Sure.
Maybe. I don't think I don't think he has ever been, will ever be the thrower of the football that Hurts, Allen, Lamar Jackson, the players who have been in that echelon.
I know for a fact he's never been that. Put it that way.
And
it's all if you can become something that very few people have ever been, then
but that's what we do this thing where and this goes back to behavioral psychology and behavioral economics. We put these things in a bucket based on like what we see that they're like. So if I said to you, okay, I have this gentleman who is very meek and mild-mannered and is good with numbers. People like, oh, he's an accountant, and then but they don't have the statistics that say in the area that this guy lives in, there's one accountant for 20 farmers, so he's probably a farmer. But because he looked like an accountant, immediately they're like he's an accountant. Because Anthony Richardson looks like he should or could be one of these quarterbacks up at the top, they automatically think he is, rather than, what statistically he's more likely to be. And so, like, if we can use that to our advantage, that's a win.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a good point. I agree. Again, and Genji again, if you can get the 102 for Anthony Richardson, it's a straight up win. I would not dither over a plus. If you can get a plus, I think you're taking advantage of him a little bit. Sure.
Do it.
I have Kyler and the 101. So you're already taking advantage of that league. Good enough. Cypher, 10-team Dynasty, Superflex 2 QB, start 11. What is a fair ask for Tyreek in terms of 24 draft capital? What do you want? You should expect at least a top 5 pick, I think. But again, the value's descending on hill for some people in most Dynasty leagues because he's hitting that age range. Everyone thinks everyone turns into a pumpkin.
Yeah, well, and I think the problem with the yes, Tyreek Hill, you should get a top 5 pick in the Superflex. But the teams that want to acquire Tyreek Hill, most of them don't have a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
So
and
it's
those
weird,
do
like,
uninterested in it.
Yeah.
So it's a fair ask. Don't be surprised if you don't get it. I mean, that's why those older wide receivers just become a till they retire often proposition. You know? And why, unfortunately, there is some logic into thinking about trading them as they get toward 20. Not because they're going to become bad, but because the value will often drop off before you have a chance. As for Love and Genji, nice. There you go.
Yeah, Love in the 102.
Yeah. Seriously, Genji, is the 101 taking a QB?
Well, Genji's got the 101. He said he's got Kyler in the 101, so he can take whatever he wants there.
This was to answer the 5 keeper. He kept 4 and didn't keep Laporta, basically. Well, it's a way to go. I would keep the difference makers first. That'd be, again, you heard how we broke it down, but you can't make a bad list from that team. So.
Yeah,
yeah, I think so, unless someone wants to offer me an elite QB. Oh, you're the 101. That's why. First round startup, so that disqualifies. Okay. Adams, I think Michael Meyer, and I said this in the last few articles I did write for this season, he's going to be an interesting, if you're shopping for the next tight end as a second round value, throw some Michael Meyer on some teams, see what ends up.
Yeah, you can do worse.
I don't think he had Laporta's range of outcomes, and I don't think he has it now. I don't think he has Mark Andrews in his range of outcomes, to use another name you're more familiar with. But could he have an Ingram? Could he be a perpetual top 12 kind of a guy? Yeah. I think he could end up in the Pat Freiermuth-like production. Pat Freiermuth is a little easier to see. I like his college profile a little better. But his draft capital combined with a pretty decent college profile, should be Russell. Around that value. Was that a keeper tight end premium? Not sure. I'd be keeping Laporta if it isn't. I was valuing even as Laporta has that difference making points even in a non-premium league like Kelsey.
He was the tight end one.
Laporta.
Yeah.
This year, literally.
Yeah.
Super Cooper. The Keep 5 question from earlier has been stressing me out for over a week now. I can see why you're stressed out, right? It's meant to be fun because I have all these good players. And I would go back and forth on it a million times. Again, you don't have to go with the way we broke it down, but I think that's what I would try and do. Try and develop a rationale that you can remember that you used. And if it doesn't work out for reasons that you think you can adjust, right? But that's... I don't play in all the keeper leagues anymore. I played in some years ago, but that's roughly where I came to when making those kind of decisions. The Dynasty, but the big pot is gone. Everyone voted on keeping 5 and revamping it. It is interesting. The league direction or where the league's at can change some things. Like you're thinking about dropping Mahomes, for example, because you think the league's more likely to re-up or do rebuilding more than competing. But that would make me lean on the like I want to go win, smaller pot or not, just go win. Personally, but interesting context. I don't know who we're talking about.
That's Puka.
Oh, okay. Yeah, again, if it was JSN, not to throw shade, or Addison, or Josh Downs, or Tank Dell that did what Puka had done, I would probably have a harder time. I would lock him in. He'd be like, he's the guy I'm not tearing down on. To be clear, some of this is rookie evaluation, but not to diminish him, but because player evaluation does sometimes play a small role, even in the way I play fantasy. And that's what does it. But it's mostly the value, why he's falling to 7 in my ranks. And also looking at the world, I was going to say market, but I'm really tired of the world. Looking at ranks on Keep Trade Cut, looking at ranks on ADP, looking at ranks on DLF from other rankers, he's not being launched up there, so there's almost no incentive to do that. For someone like me who kind of likes him in the tier with Waddle or with CD and with Amon-Ra, who yeah. Anyway.
I mean, you're split. There's so many good wide receivers that you're splitting hairs at that point. Like, that's just kind of where we're at. It's not a knock, Jazz and Genji. It's not a knock on Puka splitting hairs between the whether he's top 5 or 6 or 7, like that. The top right now, the top 7 receivers, and if you look at. And I know, Peter, you're not a per game guy. You look at per game, he and Mike Evans were like the same guy this year. And then again, that's not to say Puka was great. But man, Marvin Harrison has got a different ceiling.
Harrison outside the top 5. I think in general, especially where I haven't looked at their class, I'm willing to say I am very hesitant to put a rookie that high up, but that seems to be pretty consensus right now. Everyone's loved this guy for like 2 years. So
again, since 2017, the top receiving grades that I've ever given out: CeeDee Lamb is 1, Justin Jefferson is 2, Marvin Harrison Jr. is 3, AJ Brown is 4. Ronald Moore is 5. Jamar Chase is 6. They're tied.
Oh, it's like hearing that. Sorry. I love
and then Corey Davis. Yeah. And then Corey Davis. And DJ
what
Moore.
He's saying
is
he's not saying it lightly.
No, this is like, and I have and again, I'm not the end all be all. I certainly am not the best evaluator that is out there. And I don't claim to be.
But if you're asking his opinion about his evaluation,
I'm saying that, like, I have a process that I have had dialed in since 2017, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is the 3rd best prospect I have seen since then come out of college.
Saying Quentin Johnson, Marvin Mims, Clayton, and Marcus Brown, for Marcus Brown on the 312. Odds it gets accepted. Not great, but I would love it for you if you got it. Marcus Brown's always a solid offer for that kind of. Here's some guys with some pretty hype or potential.
Yeah.
And
he may end up somewhere else and like be the 1-ish somewhere else too. So.
Well, I would actually keep Michael. Did you say Michael Meyer? No, you didn't.
No.
Try Tyler Lockett next. He's the older version of Michael. If you got that Brown, you get Lockett. I'm pretty happy. Marvin Harrison stinking it up his rookie year sounds about right.
He'd have to play for FedEx because that's where Arthur Smith is going to be.
I also have the 104 in that league. Just stop showing off how great your team is. That's what I think. Traded Bryce Young, the 205, the 210, and the 211 for the 105. Solid. Yeah, you're tearing up. It's a super flex, though. Top 5. Yeah, you're fine. And 10... Start 10, 12 team. How we feel about that? I think it's borderline in a super flex trade Young for that. But if you're getting in the top 5, I think it's okay if you just kind of don't want to wait and do it later.
Yeah, I think you probably lost value, but like the bet on you're betting against Young being something. You're basically saying, I think Young is what he is.
And the only reason I'm hesitating is I think there's at least minimum. There's going to be a peak where he suddenly might look like more than he is now, and that would have been a better window. But I myself am not I try for the micro markets. That's why we talk about them a lot. But I'm willing to bail out rather than wait and see sometimes. So I don't hate this trade if you just want to play that game. I'll bleed some value to move to where I want to be, which is a top 5 pick. That's fine. Good luck. Setting up a new Dynasty League. Thinking 12 teams, Superflex, QB, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, tight end, 2 flexes, Superflex, leaving out kicker and defense. Does this seem like a solid format for Superflex League? Well, you didn't add that. You did Superflex.
Yeah, it is Superflex, yeah.
How many bench spots would you suggest? It's really what you want to play, Gazette. You can play anything you want. This seems fairly default. I love vanilla, like vanilla Superflex Dynasties. Love them. And that's what this seems like to me. I like this league a lot. Setup. As far as bench spots go, it varies. Like 7, 8. I feel pretty comfortable. I actually like having part of it as a taxi squad, even if there's not too much difference, and having a deeper taxi squad than a bench. I really like the way Zach's league plays that, and that you can only add rookie draft picks into it, and that adds value to the 4th and 5th round picks because you can stuff it a little bit to try and play, the spaghetti approach. It adds something to the trade market where suddenly 4th and 5th round picks have some value. So I would go to 5 or 6 bench spots if you're going to have a taxi and have a few deeper spots. It's just something to think about. It's a fun way to add value to something else, which is those 4th, 5th, even the 3rd round picks to stuff your taxi squad. Outside of that, I think this is solid. And if you're not having a taxi squad of some like 8, you're looking at pretty good league, I think.
I usually play in deeper. I usually play in a little bit deeper benches, but I think most of the
benches, but
most of the leagues I'm in are like start 11, and then it's like anywhere from 28 total. So like you're talking 17 to like 19 or 21.
28 players to 32 is normally what we roster.
Yeah.
And I like the idea, especially if you're just keeping the waiver wire a little richer. I think that can be fun.
It's absolutely how you want to play it.
Waiver wire is so dead when you get to most of my leagues because we do roster 28, 32, 48
and
more league, I think.
So the other thing I'll say is if you're kind of hesitant or if your league is a little bit novice, like you haven't done Dynasty before, if you're thinking of starting one, if you have the benches a little bit short to start, it's easier to expand the benches than it is to contract the benches.
Yeah.
So.
Good. Yeah. That's a good part of it. Yeah. Good point. Patrick Pichette. I don't know why I suck at words so bad.
I want to call him Pichette.
12-team Superflex, half-point tight end premium. The 104 Gibbs, JT, Olave, Laporta, Prescott, Tua, or Fields.
Tua.
For a startup draft. So add Tua or add Fields. Tua, yeah. I would rank Tua above Fields pretty significantly. If that's the question.
Oh, is this where we're like who we're drafting? Like which one of these are we drafting? 105, 104, Gibbs.
He
JT,
got the 104,
Olave, Laporta, Prescott. I still think it's Tua for me.
It's Tua. Yeah. Maybe Olave? No,
not over a quarterback. Not over a no.
Yeah. 0.5 PPR, 4 points for passing touchdowns. Solid. Yeah. Is it better to go 6 points for passing touchdowns? I think more points is always more fun, but I think 4 is default for a pretty good reason, and I find it more than enough. It's fun. And again, I stealing Zach's point, it's easier to grow something like points later than it is to shrink them later. So start off with 4. If you want heavier quarterback scoring later, you can change it.
And honestly, like, look at it. Like, dump in what a 4-point would look like. Dump in what a 6-point would look like. Look at what it does to the quarterback striation, who it moves up, who it moves down, and do it that way.
Again, I'm a very vanilla player, so this is coming from that perspective. But I think especially if you're thinking about starting one for the first time, or like Zach said, maybe it's a newer group, keeping it as familiar as possible is an ease into the differences. You can find the differences in Dynasty while not having to learn a new scoring system. And I think that might make it a little more fun, a little easy to get into. And then later you can get more exotic until eventually you end up in a league that looks like it's run by John Bosch, and I quit. John Bosch is a fantastic commissioner, by the way, but he plays in some crazy ass formats, and I can't figure out how to play in them. That's why. But yeah, I think starting off as similar to what the majority will be used to is actually a good way to get started, honestly. Keevan, again, yeah, I guess I don't see the significance of having difference makers spread across positions versus just keeping Wilson or Hall. It's a good question, and it's actually pretty important, I think. Zach's all teed up, so I'm going to let him go.
No, so again, you're having to start a tight end. And so you might as well have the difference maker at the positions. And nothing is saying, like, those players go back into a draft. There's nothing that says you can't end up with Hall or Wilson or whoever. But, like, I want the positional difference makers to give me an advantage at the most positions I can, because I'm going to have to start them. So, like, again, the difference between having say all the other tight ends get kept and you don't get Laporta, so you're starting the tight end 10 or 12 or whatever. There's going to be a bigger gap between Laporta and the tight end 12 that you're starting than there will be between whatever wide receiver you're starting and Wilson, or whatever running back you're starting and Hall. There will be.
And the way I'd say it, Keevan, you've been in here before. I know you know fantasy and dynasty, so I don't have to explain the suck eggs approach. And Zach just did most of the high level stuff there. But the way I would think of it is, obviously, positional difference makers are a way you try and lock in a solid advantage over your league mate when it's a week to week game.
Right.
From a dynasty perspective or a keeper perspective, it works there too. And you got to remember the availability. It's a kind of a supply and demand limit. Now, running back, there's actually less running back difference makers than there are wide receiver difference makers. But the difference is that running backs ranks revolve more readily. That's why wide receivers tend to carry a higher premium in both keeper and dynasty, because they can be more sure, not certain, but more certain that they are going to be that the following year or the following couple of years in dynasty. Essentially, most of that risk comes with injury, but not always, because the scoring bounces around, which is why someone like CMC is such a locked in, even at 20 million years old, because those kind of positional difference makers running back, especially of the last few years, are particularly hard to find, and he would have been a difference maker in any era. So there's that at running back, so that's why wide receivers get the bump. But the thing about the onesie positions, or what I think of as the onesie positions, quarterback and tight end, they're even more rare positional difference makers than running backs. Now, while you only play one, if you're thinking about a keeper league and locking in those positional difference makers because as advantage as you get on a week-to-week, trying to actually win a week-to-week game, because there's literally only one, and we're lucky to have two in an individual season, let alone guys who repeatedly do it. Well, one thing is that quarterbacks and tight ends are even more likely to repeat and maintain that than wide receivers, and there's even fewer of them than running backs. Now, what usually restricts the position a little bit is in one QB, you only have to start one quarterback, and outside of those first two, most are replaceable production in most seasons or on average. With tight end, it's actually more beneficial at tight end than at quarterback because of the replaceability of the rest of the position at quarterback. Tight end isn't really that deeply replaceable outside of just literally you can get it off the waiver wire. Even in a dynasty league where you roster 40 players, you can mostly stream even tight end to get a top 12 performance out of your tight end position. Quarterback, you can't really do that. So, in fact, Sam Laporta, I would say, would have even more advantages in a keeper league with that format, because one is a keeper league, so you can repeatedly keep them. There's very few of them that have that positional difference makers, and they are more certain to maintain that for a longer period of time. So it's kind of a mesh of both running back and wide receiver. Now, again, where you're already starting one, that is the thing on the position, but we're talking about keeping and dynasty, and so that has that weighs less heavily on my soul, as it were. And so that's why Laporta for me would be one of those ones. But again, on a year-to-year basis, you're going to be pretty happy keeping anyone on that team. You could keep Wilson. Zach loves Wilson. You won't find someone with a higher on Wilson. Yep. And we both, like this offseason, like Hall is the closest to a CMC since CMC. Like Hall and Bijan Robinson are really the only two, I think. that we said it's something like that is in that range of outcomes, but not actually CMC. Barkley, I would have said, and he's been more like Hall, and not to reevaluate my ranks here. Barkley's the only other one that I thought could have gotten the CMC range since CMC became what he became. So Hall's a really solid ad, but again, I ran through the difficulty of that position before, which is why Laporta won out for me. You can also just go Hall's great though, and add something like as close to possible that advantage at running back, and that's fine too because it's a keeper league. I really don't think there was a bad list that you could make from that, and you could play it that way and be perfectly dominant. And just explaining why I would prioritize the tight end that way, because it's an area where you can lock in very different opinions with solid reasoning. There is no one answer. I'm not saying, and that is the perfect answer. That's where I've come to getting it more right more of the time, as often as I personally can. You might find better luck with, or better reasoning to go a different direction, but those are the reasons I would prioritize that onesie position, even though it is a onesie position in the keeper league. I think it's a really interesting area of study or just discussion. But it's like having Kelsey for the last 5 years was better than having, let's pick a name, not to be too unfair, Barkley. There you go. One of those elite team running backs for the last 5 years, because some years Barkley was injured, some years he didn't quite hit that positional difference maker, and the value trailed off, whereas Kelsey is still kind of competitive for the relatively similar value. He's given at least 2 years in the last, 5, that were definitely positional difference makers in a flex position. And in his tight end position, every year he was one of those guys. So, yeah, that might be a better way of illustrating what I'm trying to describe between the positions there. Henry, yes. Sorry. Would you buy Henry or Eckler? Depends on the price. I would prefer Eckler. But I'm getting Henry. I got Henry in that mock draft so deep that Henry might actually win out on value. He might be a lot easier to trade for, but you have to be a competitive roster to do it.
And we've talked about this, Peter. Like, this is going to be another year to me where the old guard kind of hangs on, because there aren't very many high-end running that like, it's Travion Henderson, maybe. Like, there aren't very many high-end running backs in this class. So,
yeah. And Jazz Fresh agrees with us. So finally, I got one right. That locks that in for me. Philip J. Fry. I love that show. No PPR, tight end premium, Superflex, start 9, 4 QB, 4 points per quarterback touchdown. Kyler Fields, Bryce, CMC, JT, Moss, Chase Waddle, Olave. It looks like a fantastic team. He owns a 103, 25 and 26 draft capital. Lost in the finals. I'm sorry to hear that, man. That's rough. But it's literally a coin flip by the time we get there, in my opinion. Getting there is the trick. Off-season moves. Okay. Running backs.
I would draft somebody at the 103. That would be my off-season move. I mean, like, you don't need to. I think that people get really cute with like teams that you lose in the championship, or if you make the playoffs and you don't win, and you don't realize that the chance of winning, even if you have the best team all the way through the season, your chance of winning is like 40%, maybe even a little less than that. So the fact that you got there, the fact that you have this team, which you can look at really easily and be like, this is a good team. Like, yeah, if you want to tweak some things, fine. But like, man, that wide receiver core is great. You got CMC as your anchor to that running back room. Jonathan Taylor, assuming he comes back healthy, is fantastic. The quarterback room, like, I love having Fields as a 2. Like, that's perfect. And obviously McBride and Watt, like, that's a really nice team. You got the 103. Draft whoever's there, whether it's a quarterback, whether it ends up being May, Caleb Williams, or Marvin Harrison. Like, all of a sudden your team is even better. So,
No, solid. That's the perfect answer. I'm going to add to it because I'm here. Off-season moves that didn't work for me this year, but continue to be part of the way I play Dynasty. Fields is great too. If I can turn that into Hurts, Allen, or Mahomes, almost a perfect team, right? And so, not that you can do that, but it's something I'd look into. If you're going to make a strong, significant move with this team, make it that kind of thing, like getting Fields into one of those top 3 quarterbacks, or McBride into Andrews or Laporta, like the dream move, right? Probably can't do it, but like that's back to what Zach said. Don't have to get too cute. Like you're just making this team elite, or it's already pretty elite, and you've got the 103 to maybe even improve it. Yeah, that's what I got. Kevin, linear rankings are pretty useless. They are. They're an interesting exercise, and people like them and find them to have some value. That's why we all do them. You know? Actionable decisions, just in case of frustrating convos about who should be top. Yeah, completely agree. Can't hear.
But I said that's what everybody wants, though. Everybody wants to see your rankings, and so it's like I don't do rankings. I've never done because things move so quickly, so fluidly, and especially for me, where I'm trying to get ahead of micro markets. Like rankings don't do me any good because like it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what I think versus what everyone thinks. And so, like for me to do a ranking, it doesn't help you. And I think Kevin also the issue becomes what are your rankings? Because like Peter, you said you're doing it kind of based on value and like what you could. So you have players ahead of Puka because you would rather have them plus than Puka, and it's like, so like you have to kind of understand like how people are doing rankings. Like some people do rankings based on like the community value, some people based on how they would draft them. Like, so there's so many different types of rankings. And I completely agree with you, Kevin, that like linear rankings don't work on their face because there are tiers of players. So like, and the tiers are in different places for different people. So like my 1 through 7, maybe a tier, whereas Peter's 1 through 7, maybe like a tier of 2, a tier of 3, a tier of 2. And so yes, no, I agree. But that's what people want. People want to have the linear
why.
ranking.
You just quickly understand what Zach says about this trade or this player, then rankings make sense. I've seen so many attempts to fix them. Like DLF has got a lot of features, like you can add tiers to your rankings, which is helpful, but again, it's still fluid. And also comments. But can you imagine like writing everything Zach just said about the difference between Amon-Ra and CeeDee Lamb in every comment box? Because every rank has that kind of 2 paragraphs and very simple, but actually explain the rankings. They do a rankings explain series where each of us, we sign up for it, and whoever's going to do it that year, write down how we're ranking and why some of the differences. But then you have to study the ranker to read their ranks. There's no real way of fixing rankings, but there's also clearly a desire for them. It is a really interesting process to go through. I encourage other people to do it. Like here's a list of players, rank them, just to run the thought process through your head, because it helps trying to think through trade decisions and a whole bunch of other stuff. But also, like most people, a real casual player. I'm mostly, as far as my leagues go, a real casual player. If I wasn't having fun doing the research and trying to get better and doing the Dynasty Grind and stuff, I think I would enjoy rankings just as give me a quick idea of what you think about this. I might disagree, but tell me where you got Puka versus CeeDee Lamb to give me some thoughts and ideas. I understand why people want them as well. But you're right. They have all these sucky elements to them. Yeah. I think it's really interesting. Conversation 2. Just pitch value falling. Just seen a trade get accepted. 12-team Superflex. 12-team start, 10 Superflex. Tight end premium. It's for Flowers. I think Flowers is unknown.
mean,
Can't do the Baltimore receivers anymore.
I'd rather have
man,
Pitts, yeah. And that's a low price for Pitts. So especially in a tight end premium and Jazz, I think this is me thinking micro markets. You know what's going to happen to Kyle Pitts' value as soon as they say, "Hey, this coach is not Arthur Smith."
His
value's gonna go back
the
up.
coach of the team.
Yeah.
Lee, somebody please create Dynasty Owner format. Was so amazingly fun. Dynasty Owner format. Is that different than Dynasty? I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I sure hope, more ways to play Dynasty or fantasy football is great to me. And Lee, thanks for commenting, man. I don't think we've spoken together before, so appreciate seeing you here. Because look, would you set a max for how many QBs can be on one team? Nah, I hate those positional maximums and minimums.
28.
Nah. Yeah, I don't like them at all.
Whatever.
Sounds like you're playing on Flea Flicker, by the way.
Yeah.
Excellent platform. Free. So, fully encourage that. But they do have a maximum, minimum. I hate that stuff. No. Let people build whatever team they want. Seems off, but I have heard a few say that. I mean, if they play in whatever format you want, if you like restricting it so people can't hoard or not, personally, I think it all adds to whatever the tone of that league is. If someone's hoarding QBs, it creates a different kind of market, creates different value. You just got to adjust to how your league makes play, you know? But if you don't like, you can play like that. Personally, you're asking me, no, I don't like that at all. Let people hoard. It's fine. I think it's pretty fair, but it is a value drop, which was the point, I think. Yeah. Value reflects reality. Value actually follows points more consistently than anything else. That's why we do track ADP and look at people's rankings over time, I guess. And it's Adam Harstad's line, right? Value follows points, or points follow value. If you just concentrate on value, technically you will continuously improve the points you're scoring. Actually,
I still think
because it has a positive correlation. It's over 50%. Yeah. If you get it accurate, anyway. 12 teams start 10 PPR time. Yeah, we already talked to you, Philip, about this one. Happy to do it again, but probably just hit replay. Replay. It's getting late. Got to get Zach to bed. Genji, keep trade cut has Flowers at wide receiver 12. That's high. But he had a solid rookie season. It's just that there's tier and like you can get Hill for less. If you're interested in points, and you can get Addison for about the same if you're interested in a honestly better bet for points. And Young. Fantasy count, wide receiver 27. Wow, those values are all over the place. But the Kyle Pitts downfall has been a wild ride. It's a very different career, very different individual, but fantasy-wise, it's almost the Evan Ingram arc. It still continues to awkwardly mirror that. Fantasy calc is probably lagging, given most leagues have trade deadlines. So not enough, and you've also got to be aware of ones that are focused on ADP, like DLF hasn't updated since December. It's going to wildly change once we get into January mocks and stuff.
Also, Zay Flowers sits on
the
keep trade cut, just picking himself. So you got to,
Yeah. That's how Pitt stayed so high for so long. It was just John Bosch continuously.
And Bob Gilchrist.
They teamed it. Yeah. And he might actually be entering a buy zone. Pitts?
Yeah.
Scary. But Zach's right. If this is a micro window where people are going to get excited about not Arthur Smith, essentially, now and then later he'll bounce back up, at which point you can sell. So, he probably is. Sorry it took us so long to get to your question, Philip. I really do just do them on order. It seems like the fairest way.
Same question.
Yeah,
but
he's asking because he thinks we're not answering, so we didn't see it. That's normally what it is, but and yes. By the way, I think this is a new addition. You should probably get Marvin Harrison Jr. if you get that option.
Yeah, best player available. So
Atlanta, so much variable.
The new quarterback, new coach. Yep. Yeah. But the nice thing is they got about as bad of each. So they're in theory, they're going up, which means that will be the perception, which is what I care about right now, is the perception will be up. So even if Kyle Pitts never plays a snap on my roster, if I trade for him now, they sign a coach, they either draft a quarterback or sign a quarterback or trade for a quarterback, Kyle Pitts' value is going to go up, and then I can
Spend
cash
all
out
last
if I want
season
to.
posting clips of Drake London doing something cool and Bijan Robinson looking swole, and suddenly, everyone's like, Atlanta's going to be great.
Yeah.
Which maybe they will, but the value is what we care about. Philip, the 103 and London or the 101? 101.
Yeah.
12 team Superflex. See, it's 101.
Yeah.
I would do that in a 1 QB actually, but the Superflex is an interesting wrinkle because it makes the 103 slightly more valuable.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 101. Is there anything else to that? No, it's this team again. Yeah, but you can just think of your different wide receiver slots as different positions. Can't that still be your difference? Yeah, wide receivers can be difference makers. When we're talking about positional difference makers, and it is limited, that's why I was talking about tight ends. You can typically only start one, and then unless you're starting another one in a flex spot, which is usually suboptimal. It can. I'm not going to pull out some math here, but I think I've looked over it before. Those few tight ends, again, more likely to sustain and more likely to sustain for a longer period of time than both the wide receiver, which is the other position. The only one that's slightly more likely is quarterback, which is, again, typically a 1 seed position. It can be, but you're adding an edge where fewer people can possibly compete with it as well, which kind of balances as well. Like if you're starting Kelsey, someone else can start Andrews. Up until this year, there was no third guy. It was you and one other team that had that edge. With wide receivers, you can start CeeDee Lamb, and someone else starts Ross St. Brown, someone else starts Tyreek Hill, because there are actually more than in the ranks that we did because we weren't valuing the old guys. Someone else was starting Adams the last 3 years before this year. And so there are more teams that can equal that at your wide receiver 1 spot or your wide receiver 2 spot. You actually get wide receiver 2 about half. It's about half, but still. And that's why that difference maker, it's when there's so few at tight end, on average, just talking about the question we're talking about, balances out just slightly more valuable than the wide receiver 2 spot being difference making for me. But because wide receiver points are also a little bit more replaceable in terms of the flex spot, which is the other part of the fact that tight ends, you're not going to be able to plug in multiple tight ends in your flex spots. With wide receivers, you can do that a little bit more consistent. So, yeah. But,
well, and that goes back to like why I like to have in 1 quarterback leagues, I'm way more likely to go get one of the top quarterbacks than I am in a superflex league.
Yeah.
Which, again, I know that sounds weird, but to have that difference maker in a league where there aren't, and they're undervalued because you only start one, you can usually get them for cheaper, and it's a bigger advantage.
And to be fair, even some people disagree. Like the math is what source are you using, and what about if we look at this sample? But as broadly as I can, those are the answers. And the other thing is, we're talking about small edges here, and it's not every week that Kelsey gave you 2 points over positional advantage. Some weeks he scored 10 points and barely added an advantage, like he did this year sometimes. But overall, trying to make a decision about a future we can't possibly predict. That's where we come down to. Could you start Olave and who are the others, CeeDee Lamb, and still be roughly putting up the same points per game? Yeah, absolutely. The other element I was bringing in is I can be more certain Laporta, Andrews, Kelsey are more likely to be those difference makers in 3 years, even than CeeDee Lamb. Not that we're less doubting CeeDee Lamb, but tight ends are slightly, if you look at a large historical sample size, slightly more likely to still be that guy. Again, who would have said that about Barkley 3 years ago versus Kelsey? But you could have just looked at that average, and Kelsey would have been predicted to be the more consistent and more likely to still be there now, which mostly worked out this year. and did for 2 years in between that time period. Again, we're talking about very small edges. It's not like you're ruining your team, or you can't possibly select those wide receivers. But if making a decision, yeah, the edge on average, most of the time, would slide to someone like Sam Laporta. But there's still some variability there, because we're not actually talking about Kelsey. We're talking about Laporta. So more than relying on the repeatability rates of rookies who perform really well at the tight end position, which are actually extremely rare. I'm actually just grouping him in with Gronkowski, Jimmy Graham, and Kelsey, even though he's only a rookie. So there's a little bit more variance there. But again, tight ends actually seems to be a slightly more predictable position with those trends. But that's another story. Jazz Fresh. If Nabas landed with the Chargers and Harrison went to the Bears, with Fields more commit in a low passing volume, would Harrison still go wide receiver 1?
Yes. Imagine if AJ Brown went to
You know. Yeah, because it's Caleb. We're just predicting ifs upon ifs, but cool. Gavin Ferguson, 12 teams Superflex start 10. Give Puka, JT, and Baker, get Jefferson. That's a lot. Adding JT to Puka for Jefferson. Baker's it's a Superflex, so he has some value. Yeah, I still want Jefferson. But I mean, you're probably bleeding value there.
Yeah.
You've thrown enough into it that I do like condensing as much as possible into the one spot, though, because there's a certain value to that roster construction wise, but that's pretty much a value loss. But I'd still take Jefferson.
Yes.
The most surprising front office to remain intact is the New York Jets.
Yeah, I mean, they've just been abysmal. Both the GM, I mean,
maybe they're just getting used to being abysmal.
Although, I mean, I guess probably what bought them time is the fact that Rodgers got hurt. But man,
Wilson can, as we've seen, Wilson can still do stuff in a poor situation because wide receivers can. But yeah, it's a little rough. I still remember the Eric Decker and Brandon. You know who I'm thinking about. Jake Cutler, receiver.
Yeah, I do.
I still remember that year on the Jets. That was fun. I don't remember the name after we finished. 2 years in a row botching the QB situation. Well, if you had Zach Wilson for 2 years, yeah, you pretty much botched it for 2 years. But to be fair, Rodgers did get hurt the very first play in the NFL this year. It's a little hard to see that coming. Flacco last year should have kept playing, and they didn't even call him straight. Yeah. Well, to be fair, no one else did till they were forced to. Too much shade to Mr. Flacco. Thought Njoku moving forward. No, I just got tired of that whole. Njoku was going to be the guy, and this year he's a pretty decent top 12 guy. He's an incredible athlete. He was an incredible productive receiver in college. Tight ends are weird. They take a circuitous route. I think he's going to be solid as he's been the last couple of years moving forward. I'm not moving him to the Andrews Kelsey Laporta tier, but I think he's fine.
Yeah, I mean he's there's a bigger second tier now. Like that's been kind of the cool thing over the past
really
couple of years.
Middle class, right?
Yeah, which is nice. And he's rosterable, playable.
Relatively.
Not Zach Wilson. Garrett Wilson still saw it was like 147 targets this year. Still caught I didn't even know what it was. 168 targets this year. Caught 95 balls. So he's still getting volume even if the volume is gross. He's good.
It's a Fitzmagic year. Why can't I remember that guy's name? Brandon.
Marshall.
Marshall, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I was doing two different things at once. My fault.
And you still did it better than me. Did both of them better. Awesome. Genji, waivers just went through. Was awarded David Bell for $0. Great up.
You get to carry the two touchdowns over.
Tyler Huntley, Chris Brooks, Trey Tucker, and Tutu Atwell, $0. Tutu, clear win. Pete, are you more active on Threads? I'm getting more active. I like one thing. That's why I've enjoyed Twitter so much over the years. I don't want to have 7 different social media freaking. I'm not going to be an influencer. I don't want to be an influencer. I want to engage in the fantasy football community. That's cool. We seem to be divided in a few places right now. Like, I wish we would just leave Twitter and then I'd fully focus on Threads and be pretty happy. I'm trying to do too. I'm lagging behind on Threads because I'm not. It's literally that. I'm not good at managing multiple formats or social media things. But I'm trying to get more active on Threads. I'm enjoying it. It seems like a pretty good app now that it's available on desktop and stuff. But I still by default open up Twitter and just use it. Not that anyone's seeing it anymore. The rankings comment was directed at why is Puka top 5 more than anything else. Yeah, that's cool. And we completely agree with it, to be fair. Rankings are flawed fundamentally. Gazette 28 Max. Playing on Sleeper, by the way. It's a very fine app. It's not a great desktop, which is mostly where I play. That's mostly my bugaboo about it. It's a great app. Just new to starting Superflex. You're not playing on Fleetflex, I get it. And I've heard QB maxes can be good, but I don't like the idea of that. Don't do it.
I think you take away strategy when you start to
Yeah. I think if you try and babysit a league as well, you're more likely to see less activity. Like you're trying to manage other people's teams for them. Yeah. But if you find a good reason that you agree with, by all means, try it. I'm not telling you to play any particular way. And I'm telling you what I enjoy. Talk to your league mates, see what they might enjoy, and find the best first attempt. But I honestly, I think Zach's the best comment. It's easier to start with not having something and then expand into it, than try to restrict. So you could start with QB maxes, see how you enjoy it, and then release them later. That might be easier than trying to add them later. To be fair, if anyone in the league wants to try it, or if you want to try it, it's probably easier to go that direction. But again, from my own preferences, I hate it. I literally, I do not like positional maximums. There's probably an advantage to it somewhere. Again, it's probably to limit hoarding, but I don't see that as a negative in a league. Like that's just a changing market, you know. How is anyone even watching this?
Probably the best question we've had. I have no idea. Brandon
Marshall won me a league that year. Yeah, I have such trouble remembering his name, which is it's a late night thing. JC Troller, in regards to tight end value discussion, if you have multiple of those high value tight ends and a tight end premium, is it advantageous to hold them and start the extras in your flex spots to further leverage the scarcity? Because I mean, there are only 3 you could be naming that do that. Yeah, they can actually provide a flex advantage, which again, most tight ends don't. Quite an extra number of wide receivers do, which is the entire thing. So yes, you could. And Zach likes to point out with a super flex, right?
Yeah, so it depends on the premium, but in Russ's leagues, it's a 1.75 premium, which means that Kelsey, Kittle, Andrews, Hawkinson are all scoring more than what a mid-range QB2 scores. So and you can get them later than you can the quarterbacks, because quarterbacks go off the board because it's super flex and everyone's like, I need to have 2 quarterbacks. And so I will tend to eschew quarterbacks. I'll take one. Like in TA 11, I took Josh Allen because I had the 101. So I took Josh Allen, but then I ended up with Kelsey, Andrews. I think I traded for Kittle, but anyway, like that's, and so like you're starting them in flex spots, scoring what a mid-range QB2 or higher than a mid-range QB2 would.
Yeah,
and so you're leveraging that advantage and also taking away points from other teams' tight ends. So it's like it's a twofold.
Are there 4 in that discussion there? I forgot to count Kittle. Wow. Really thick that end area right now. It's magic. That was so much fun. If you know, you know. Jets should trade up for a QB. I have no idea what the Jets should do. Honestly, something. But yeah, that sounds like a good idea. It's tough. Feels like all 3 teams are the top need and will take a QB. It's going to create some falling wide receiver value, apparently, for sure. And maybe Brock Bowers. You need an Instagram account to make a threads. I don't know if you still do, but you did when they started, so that's why I have an Instagram account.
You should. Peter has some really risque Instagram photos. You should check it out.
I tried for a second because I made the damn account, so I just started posting the pictures I have. They're all tables, spreadsheets.
He's at PA at PA. How you doing on Instagram?
That's exactly right. Oh, Zach, we got to the end. So
and we made it. Pete, look over there.
Thanks, everyone.